𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐷
Vanakkam.
And very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තරුණ කටයුතු ඒ වගේම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තාරුණ්‍යයේ හෙට දවස වඩාත් වර්ණවත් කරන සහ වඩාත් සුබදායක කරන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දැනට පවතින සුවිශේෂී ස්වේච්ඡා සංවිධාන ගොන්නක් එකතු වන ඒ මොහොතටයි ඔබ අප හැමෝම අද සම්බන්ධ වී සිටින්නේ.
இலங்கையின் வரலாற்றில் முதல் தடவையாக சமூகத்திற்கு தன்னலம் பாராத தொண்டாற்றும் இளைய சமுதாயத்தினரை ஒருங்கிணைக்கும் ஃபியூஷன் வி 2021 நிகழ்விற்கு ஒன்று கூடியிருக்கும் உங்கள் அனைவரையும் அன்புடன் வரவேற்கின்றோம்.
Once again, wishing you all a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we are now witnessing the arrival of the chief guest of the Fusion V 2021 Symposium of Synergizing Youth Volunteers. And we'd like to warmly welcome the chief guest of the wonderful evening, Cabinet Minister of the Youth and Sports of the Social Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, and he is accompanied by the multiple district president, 𝐷𝐿𝐴
Followed by the chief guest are the distinguished panel members, Mr. 𝐷𝐿𝐴, Mr. Santosh Veeraman, Mr. Julian Bowling, multiple district chairperson, council chairperson, Lion Deva Peter MJF, all the key Leo and Lion leaders of the multiple 306 Sri Lanka, and all the representatives from Rotaract, AIESEC and Junior Chambers International.
And in marking the official opening of this wonderful Fusion V 2021, we'd like to now invite all of you to light up the oil lamp, starting off with the chief guest of the occasion, Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, and Chairman, Director General of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Theshara Jayasinghe, accompanied by multiple district president Leo Champiga Dammage and Symposium Chairperson Leo Tikuli Pitigala, along with multiple council chairman Lion Devadi Peter MJF, multiple council vice chairman Lion Srilal Fernando MJF, country coordinator of United Nations Volunteers Sri Lanka, Shramali Jayasinghe, the musicalist Mr. Bhathiya Jayakodi, and also well-known personality musicalist Mr. Santosh Veeraman, and also the group CEO of Hemas Holding, Ms. Kasturi Jagaraja Wilson.
National Sports Council, Mr. Julian Bowling, Assistant Vice President Private Banking at NTB PDP, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, District Governor 306A1, Lion Dr. Amita Jayawardena, District Governor 306B1, Lion MIM Razik PMJF, District Governor 306C1, Lion Shaithia Parnatantri MJF, District Governor 306C2, Lion Dr. Rasika S. Priyantha MJF, multiple district chairperson for Leo's past district governor, Lion Vidya Kirti Disanayaka MJF, District Rotaract representative, Rotaract Kavindra Kasun Sigera, Country President AIESEC, Mr. Sisitha Gayara, National President, Junior Chambers International, Dr. Dilhanes Jayatilaka.
மங்கள விளக்கேற்ற நிகழ்வு இடம்பெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றது. தொடர்ந்து தேசிய கீதம் இசைக்கப்பட உள்ளதால் அனைவரும் எழுந்து நிற்குமாறு கேட்டுக்கொள்கின்றோம்.
And in marking the lighting of the oil lamp, nothing but the best wishes for the youth of Sri Lanka to coming up for another big step forward in making this country a greater way of life in all the times. සම්ප්‍රදාන කූලව හෝටල් පහන්සිලු දැල්වීම මගින් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වන්නේ අද දවසේදී මේ අපි ආරම්භ කරන්නා වූ වැඩ කටයුතු වලට ඉතාමත් හොඳ සාර්ථක ආරම්භයක් ඒ වගේම සියලු දෙනාගේම ජීවිතවලට විශේෂයෙන්ම තරුණ අපගේ ජීවිතවලට නැවුම් බලාපොරොත්තුවක් නැවුම් ආශිර්වාදයක් ලබා ගැනීමයි මේ සියල්ලේ බලාපොරොත්තු හොඳයි. ඉතින් අපි නැවතත් ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා දේශයේ මාතාවට අභිමානය දක්වන්නට සියල්ව එක්සිත නැගී සිටමු ජාතියේ මාතාවට ආචාර කිරීමට.
Yes, to pay utmost tribute to our mother nation, please rise for the national anthem to mark the inauguration of Fusion V 2021.
Sri Lanka Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata. Sundara Siddharini Surani Ati Sobhamana Lanka. Ranya Ganaya Mekamal Malakulu Iri Jaya Bhumi Ranya. Apahata Sapa Siri Seta Sadhana 𝐷𝐕 Pilih kanu mena apa bhakti puja. Namo Namo Mata. Apa Sri Lanka. Namo 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 Mata. Upavi apa vidya. Upamaya apa satya. Upave apa shanti. Apa hada tula bhakti. Upa apa aloke. Apa ge anuprani. Upa apa jivanale. Apa muktiya ubave. Nava jivana demini likina apa kubudu karan mata. Jnana vida vadavani naragena yanu mena jaya bhumi kara. Ekmavakate daru kala vedina. Yamu yamu vinopama. Prema vada samaveda durara. Namo Namo Mata. Apa Sri Lanka. Namo 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 Mata.
Different facets of a single global movement driven by the same faith.
Faith in humanity, compassion, and goodwill.
No matter how you know us, we are one in becoming the change we want to see in this world. We are volunteers, giving opportunities to gain myriad experiences and awaken the leader within oneself. The Leo movement consists of more than 150 countries around the world.
With over 140,000 Leos all over the world, 8,900 Leos in our motherland from 168 Leo clubs, devoted to the pledge to be there for anybody in need.
Is continuing a legacy of more than 50 years. A trailblazer in volunteerism, the Leo movement is proudly setting out
On a marvelous journey of serving those in need. 203,298 Rotaractors, 10,698 clubs spread throughout 180 countries, bringing together aspiring youth to overcome mind-numbing challenges.
In our motherland, over 7,600 of youth are serving the needy as Rotaractors, inspiring the youth in more than 120 countries across the world for over 70 years.
AIESEC remains a life giver to ambitions and hopes.
For thousands of youths across the globe, they are groomed to step out of their comfort zones with the aim to drive the world
to its fullest potential, traversing through land borders and time zones.
just to make someone else's lives better. 1,385 Sri Lankan youths engaged in the movement are currently striving to rise by lifting others. While empowering young people to create positive change, Junior Chamber International members take initiative to solve local challenges. With over 121 national organizations and 500 community organizations spread throughout 121 countries, the global member legacy of 220,000 are striving hard to tackle local issues with innovative solutions. 200 Sri Lankan JCI members are focused in making sustainable differences in the Sri Lankan community.
Volunteers across our small island are making vast changes through small steps.
Giving life to thousands of dreams, hopes, and smiles.
How can we be more sustainable? How can our silent commitments get acknowledged? What is the future of volunteerism in our motherland?
3 pioneers in volunteerism in Sri Lanka, in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, are getting together today to decide the destiny of the art of serving.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to come together in witnessing the Symposium of Synergizing Youth Volunteers in Sri Lanka.
Symposium of Synergizing Youth Volunteers in Sri Lanka, proudly presented to you by the Leo Multiple District 306, the Lions Club International, together with the Ministry of Youth and Sports Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, wonderful welcome you all once again who are presented here at the auditorium of the Ministry of Youth and Sports Sri Lanka, and also due to the pandemic situation we have in the country, we have to limit the number of seatings here, but I'd like to warmly welcome all of you who have been looking forward and watching us live on our social media platforms, and a big welcome for all of you as well. Dinusha, I believe our welcome will not be sufficient for this wonderful symposium of synergizing the youth, and yes, we have something very special.
Yes, leading the multiple district 306 under the theme Spark Inspiration, Fusion V is indeed a spark in the Leo Multiple District 306. To deliver the welcome address, I would like to cordially invite Leo Champaka-Dammage, who is the spearhead of the Leo movement of the Leoistic year 2020-2021, who drove the dream of Fusion V into reality. So, Champaka-Dammage, Leo Champaka-Dammage, the stage is yours.
Let's all give a big round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. So here we are. So keeping the first step towards the united future of Sri Lanka volunteerism. On the historical day, first and foremost, let me welcome the dynamic chief mentor in our youth, none other than our very own chief guest of this great occasion, the Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports, Sir Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, along with the Chairman of the National Youth Service Council, Mr. Namal Rajapaksha, for gracing this symposium with your effective presence. So I also heartily welcome our multiple council chairperson, Lion Deva Peter, MJF, along with all the Lions key National Lions Club international leaders. So I greeting panel of today's symposium, leading us to the Catalyst in Action. Country Coordinator of United Nations Volunteers, Sri Lanka, Ms. Shamali Jayasinghe, Musical Artist, Mr. Bhathiya Jayakodi, Musical Artist, Mr. Santush Veeraman, Group CEO of HEMAS, Ms. Kasturi Chelaraja Wilson, National Sports Council, Mr. Julian Bolin, Assistant Vice President, Private Banking, Nation Trust Bank, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa. I welcome you all of a humble symposium of Synergizing. On behalf of the Leos of Sri Lanka, I warmly welcome the district representative of the Rotaract Rotaract District, the country president AIESEC, Mr. Sasit Gayara, National President JCI, Dr. Dilhan S. Jayatilaka, the brother leaders and the key delegates of our international youth organization Sri Lanka. So I also warmly welcome my Leo family, the Leo leaders who are here, as they are the strong foundation this step is built upon. So Fusion V 2021. So Sri Lanka's first official symposium towards the synergizing the youth volunteers. So with the Ministerium built a common platform for volunteer organization within 4 other international prominent organizations collaborators. So the journey via voyage, the Leo Multiple District 306 Sri Lanka, together with the Ministry of Sports and Youth, so with the ultimate objective to bring acknowledge and recognition to our hard-working volunteers. The symposium is not only not only organizational level, it is even beyond the national level, since Leos and AIESEC, JCI and Rotaractors are all international volunteer organizations within the simple motive of building youth leaders to be responsible citizens. So we are hoping the symposium will empower and energizing our youth to be more motivated and sounding in their journey of service to the community. Hope all you will own an effective symposium. So thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo Champagadamage.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dinusha, being a leader and being in the category of the youth, now we have a very significant role to play. As we all know, we are in a very challenging situation that the world has never been, and now as youth, we have a role to play and to inspire the all young leaders. Dinusha?
Yes. Then අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් සේවය කරනකොට අපි දෙයක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැතුව තව කෙනෙක්ට යමක් කරන්න පුළුවන් කට්ටිය කීයෙන් කී දෙනාද මේ ලෝකේ ඉන්නේ?
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම දිනුෂා අපෙන් ලබා වන සේවය අපෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වන සේවය බොහෝ දෙනෙක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් විශේෂයෙන්ම නායකයන් වශයෙන් තරුණ නායකයන් වශයෙන් අපිට බොහෝ දේවල් කරන්නට පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මේ තරුණ එකමුතුව අපේ සියලු දෙනාගම එකමුතුවෙන් අද දවසේදී සංවිධානය වෙන්නේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ තරුණ එකමුතුවෙන් මේ තරුණ නායකත්වයන්ගේ එකමුතුවෙන් අපිට අපේ රටට ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන් සේවය පිළිබඳ මතක් කර දෙන්නට.
ඔව් මම හිතන්නේ මෙතන ඉන්න තරුණ සංවිධානය වල ඉන්න හැම යෝන් නායකයෙක්ම සහ නායිකාවක්ම සමාජයට යමක් දෙන්නේ කිසිම දෙයක් පෞද්ගලිකව බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැතුව. ඉතින් ඒ වටිනා අදහස පෙරදරි කරගෙන තමයි මෙතන ඉන්න යෞවනයන් තමන්ගේ පුද්ගලික කාලය කැප කරමින් මේ වගේ සංවිධාන වලට සම්බන්ධ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මේ Fusion V වැඩසටහන තුළින් තරුණ හා ක්‍රීඩා අමාත්‍යතුමා ඇතුළු අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සහයෝගය අපගේ සංවිධානය වලට ලැබිලා මේ කටයුතු වඩාත් සාර්ථකව ඉදිරියට කරගෙන යාමයි.
හොඳයි තින්න. දිනුෂා මේ සංවිධානාත්මක කටයුත්තට හයියක් දෙන්නට අද දවසේදී අපිට ඉදිරියෙන්ම දැක බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් විශේෂ වූ අමුත්තන් අපත් සමගින් එකතුලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් ඔවුන් සමග කතා බහට යෙදෙන්නට අපි සියලු දෙනාම ඉතාමත් පුළු බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. නමුත් ඊට ප්‍රථමයෙන්ම අපි අද දවසේදී හොඳ ආරම්භයක් ලබා ගන්නයි සූදානම් වන්නේ. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to have a welcome for all of you in marking the voluntary organizations in Sri Lanka representing and giving such a tremendous leadership for the youth and the nation as well. Dinisha?
Yes. Today, all the youth leaders who are gathered here are representatives of such organizations, as we mentioned earlier, and they have strived over the years to enable a society and the community to become better. Abhilash?
நன்றி தினுஷா. நீங்கள் கூறியது போலத்தான் இப்பொழுது இளைஞர்களாகிய நாம் இந்த தேசத்தின் எதிர்காலம் என்று கூறுவது எப்படி கூறினாலும் மிகையாகாது. ஆகவே அந்த வகையில் இளைஞர் அமைப்புகளான இந்த தன்னார்வ அமைப்புகள் எல்லாம் ஒன்றிணைந்து எவ்வாறு இந்த சமூகத்துக்கு உதவி செய்கின்றன, இந்த நாட்டை முன்னேற்றுவதற்கு அவர்களுடைய பங்களிப்பு யாது என்பதை எல்லாம் நாங்கள் இப்பொழுது அவர்களின் வாயாலேயே கேட்டறிந்து கொள்ளப் போகின்றோம்.
Yes, so here's a chance to understand who these organizations really are, and let's start with AIESEC. AIESEC Sri Lanka is a non-governmental, not-for-profit organization in existence over 60 years. Developing the youth into young leaders who are globally presented leaders having their interests in global issues, leadership and management. This invitation goes out to Mr. Sisita Gayara, Country President of AIESEC Sri Lanka, to give us an insight of what AIESEC is all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause and a big welcome for the AIESEC to take over the podium. And AIESEC, it's yours. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, Honorable Chief Guest, and also all the invited guests and youth leaders. So, it's a great pleasure to be here, and it's great to see that all the young leaders have get together, like all the youth organizations has get together for a bigger purpose. So, on behalf of AIESEC, can we have the PPT presentation? Okay, right. So, on behalf of AIESEC, let me tell about what is AIESEC. So this is our blueprint, and about why, how, and what, like what's our purpose of existence. So in briefly, this organization has started in 1948, just after the Second World War. And currently now, AIESEC is existing in 126 plus countries, and all the youth leaders are working for a vision of peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. So basically, we place our confidence in youth, and we believe that leadership is the fundamental solution. And we want to provide, like, develop leadership in youth through practical experiences in challenging environment. So that is what mainly expect from cross-cultural exchanges that we facilitate in Sri Lanka and also around the world. So these are our establishments in Sri Lanka. So AIESEC in Sri Lanka is mostly established in universities. These are our very strong establishments. And currently, we are expanding into these universities in order to provide more opportunities for Sri Lankan youth in order to develop their leadership. So I thought of just telling some main projects that we are currently doing so that it will be really valuable for everyone. So this LEAD program is one of the main projects that we are doing in order to gap the expectations of network, like professionals, and also the skill level of the students, or like undergraduates or other students who are moving out of the educational institutes, to bridge that gap. So we are working on that. We expect from this that we will be able to increase the youth employability. And also the second one, it's our Youth Speak forums that we have been doing from like back then. So in these ones, what we want to do is empower, engage, and act. We want to empower our young leaders about sustainable development goals and our action. And also, not only that, not staying from there, engage more work, like more activities, and also act without stopping from there. And world's largest lesson is actually, you know, it's a global project, and we as AIESEC have partnered with UNICEF, and we are also conducting this world's largest lesson in Sri Lanka. Last year, we conducted this world's largest lesson in celebrating our 25 years of existence in 50 schools at the same time in all districts of Sri Lanka. And moving on, this Futurecast is actually an initiative we started last year. That's because we saw that the requirement of digital upskilling of youth. And therefore, we started building a movement for digital upskilling so that our youth will be employable more in the future with the expectations of the corporates. And not only that, but also like in the future, it will be high value. And 𝐼𝐵 project is a special project that we are at the moment initiating with our uniqueness. That is that we are globally connected with all the countries. Daily we are in connect with those countries. And as youth, I think we have a responsibility to promote Sri Lanka and also to bring that pride and that awareness, especially in the other countries like Latin America, Europe. Some of the countries, they don't know when you go for international conferences. So we want to promote Sri Lanka with the tourism ministry, like So Sri Lanka brand, so that we expect that we will get good recognition for the country. These are some of the projects that we are doing in each our local chapters. So we are in terms of from the representing sustainable development goals that we are doing. So it's around 140 plus projects are happening in a year. So these are going for 4 cycles together with the volunteers of Sri Lanka and also abroad. Yeah, these are the national partners. Actually, they are helping us a lot in terms of building the professional skills of our youth. And we are very thankful for them. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. And I before finishing, I just want to end appreciating Leo for doing this great initiative and also the minister. So we expect that if we get together, like everyone, I think we can become a great force and we can reach greater heights. So thank you so much, and we are planning to join and do more work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisithagara. And next we have the Junior Chambers International. Junior Chambers International Organization of Sri Lanka is the senior most movement out of the 4 organizations who are gathered here today. And Junior Chamber International is a worldwide organization of young active citizens over the age of 18 until 40 who seek to create positive change in their communities. This invitation goes out to Junior Chambers International Sri Lanka Vice President, Mr. 𝐷𝐕 Rodrigo, to give a brief introduction of his movement.
Let us all give a big round of applause for the Junior Chambers International.
Greetings from JCI Sri Lanka to the dignitaries at the head table, the Honorable Chief Guest and the Honorable Guest of Honors, dignitaries of the head table, and my friends. Junior Chambers International has a history of over 100 years. It is an organization which is predominantly focused on leadership development, training, and networking. So a lot of business people are attracted to JCI in the world over. In Sri Lanka, we were established in 1964, and by 1965, Sri Lanka had the distinction as the only national level organization in the entire Asia to have its own secretariat, which is the JCI Colombo Secretariat, which is located near the Colombo International School. In Sri Lanka, right now, we have a membership of over 200 members, which consists of senators who are senior JCs of over 120, and active age group JC members between the age of 18 to 40 are in the number of 75. We have 3 chapters at the moment, and with the hopes of expanding. The growth plans are of course halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but we have wishes for this year in starting a few new chapters in the institutional level. Globally, there are over 225 national JCs, and in JCI, one single country is considered one national organization. But in countries like USA and India, which are bigger geographically, they have regional and zonal organizations for the purpose of ease of management. So JCI mission is to provide development opportunities to young people to create positive change. So that is why a lot of young business professionals who want a career in business and professional field consider JCI as a first choice, because there are a lot of international collaborative opportunities. Specifically, the area conferences and the World Congress has a special business session which attracts people who are deeply interested in developing their business all over the world. There are various sessions based on different cultures, mainly to promote business relationships amongst the JCI members. As you can see, the names listed here, as well as many more who had their initial training in JCI. In our organization, we see these professionals who have gone past the age of 40 become members of various other social service organizations and have become jewels of these organizations. In Sri Lanka, we see Kingsley Wickramaratne, and we also have Tiron Fernando, and also the past national president of JCI. And professionals like the AMW chairman, Upali Manama, who is the father of Roshan Manama, and many trainers who are such as Mufti Ashim and Prasantalal Alvis, and so many other business and political leaders have come from JCI Sri Lanka. Globally, Kofi Annan and Taro Aso, who is the Japanese Prime Minister, and Bill Clinton, and much more. We have limited it due to the space restrictions. Also, John F. Kennedy had been members of JCI in their early stages of their careers. And they have also stated that JCI was very helpful in their careers as well. Apart from that, to highlight, four of the last prime ministers of Japan had been in JCI, and globally, over 30 prime ministers have been JCs from different parts of the world. One other reason for people in JCI to move into political arena is because our meetings are conducted based on the parliamentary procedures as most of the countries in the world. That gives the members of JCI an edge in the field. And finally, we believe that faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life, and that the brotherhood of man transcends the sovereignty of nations, that the economic justice can best be won by free men through free enterprise, that the government should be of laws rather than of men, that earth's great pleasure lies in human personality, and that service to humanity is the best work of life. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Leos, for organizing such a wonderful event. And thank you from JCI Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, Junior Chambers International, for the wonderful introduction. හොඳයි මේ අතරවාරේ අපි මතක් කරන්න කැමති ඇත්තෙන්ම අද දවසේදී අපිට මෙම ස්ථානයට රැස් වෙන්න පුළුවන් සංඛ්‍යාව 100කට අඩුම ප්‍රමාණයක් වුණාට අද දවසේදී අපත් සමගින් අතිවිශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් සජීවීව සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the collaboration of the National Youth Services in our proceedings. At the meantime, we have numbers of thousands of youth watching us live on social media platforms.
அவர் கூறியது போலதான் என்னதான் இந்த அரங்கில் இருக்கும் அங்கத்தவர்களின் எண்ணிக்கை மிகவும் குறைவாக இருந்தாலும் தொழில்நுட்பத்தின் உதவி கொண்டு இப்பொழுது அனைவரும் பலர் இப்பொழுது இந்த நிகழ்வினை நேரலையாக சமூக வலைத்தளங்களின் மூலமாக கண்டுகளித்து வருகின்றனர் என்பதனை நாங்கள் இந்த நேரத்தில் உங்களுக்கு ஞாபகப்படுத்த விரும்புகின்றோம்.
As we listen to the introduction of the AIESEC, and coming up next, Junior Chambers International. Dinusha, what's next?
Yes, next is the Leo movement of Sri Lanka. මම හිතන්නේ අපි කලින් සඳහන් කරා වගේ අපි සමාජයට සේවය කරනකොට අපි කිසිම දෙයක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් ඒ කරන සේවයේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් වශයෙන් ඒ න්‍යායලෙන තරුණ තරුණියන්ට ගොඩක් අත්දැකීම් ජීවිතයට හම්බ වෙනවා. නායකත්ව ගති ලක්ෂණ ඕනෑම දෙයක් සංවිධානය කිරීමේ අත්දැකීම්, ඒ වගේම කතා කිරීමේ, පිරිසක් ඇමතීමේ අත්දැකීම්, ඒ වගේම තමන්ගේ පෞරුෂය ගොඩක් වර්ධනය වෙනවා. So personally, for us as Leos, we have gained so much by joining this wonderful movement today.
Yes, Dinusha, indeed, the experience, the leadership and the opportunity is what we've been all looking forward as young leaders. So now it is time for us to hear about Leo, and it is from a great personality once again.
Yes, let's have a look at the Leo Multiple District 306 Sri Lanka, and we cordially invite Leo Lion Champaka Damage to give his introduction.
Let's all give a big round of applause and a welcome to Champika Damage, representing Leo International.
Good evening once again, everyone. So, Honorable Minister and distinguished spring table here. And first of all, thank you very much to all the other organizations, the Rotaractors, JCIs, and AIESECs. I think this is, as I mentioned in my welcome speech, this is the ever organization doing. So, thank you all the leaders. So, accept our invitation. So, Melvin Jones, the founder of our movement, said, so you can't go very far until you start doing something for someone else. So we are the living models of the philosophy of Lions Club International. It's the world's largest service-oriented organization. So as we are the strong towards march of servants to be served. So once again, good evening everyone. Let me take through the journey of Leos of Sri Lanka. And we are L for leadership, E for experience, and O for opportunities is practice and prestige. So So leadership, experience, and opportunity. That's what makes as Leos. So Leos are an part of the Lions Club International family with their own global network, over 7,300 Leo clubs in more than 150 nations across the global. So, and the Lions and we are the youth program of the Lions Club International. So I mentioned earlier, world's largest service-oriented organization. So with the first Leo Club in Sri Lanka formed in 1969, the Leo Club program has created a great platform for all youth in Sri Lanka to serve together and build their leadership skills. So I am humbly proud that the Leos of Sri Lanka has made a great impact over the last 50 years in different communities in the country in different capacities. So we are force over 9,000 youth range from 12 to 13 alls from 168 Leo clubs all over the country, covering all over the country. So each year we at least conducted 15,000 service projects to different needs, scales and corners for at least 30 million beneficiaries by sacrificing our talents, energy, timely and nearly 150,000 hours in service. So the biggest strength of our movement is none other than our own 9,000 odd members. So our impact is kept at almost all leading state universities, private universities and schools and all key community arenas. So each step they keep at school, universities or even early career life will keep them growing. So when Leos of Sri Lanka operates with a dynamic team of young leaders representing 6 Leo districts and 1 Leo multiple, covering all over the areas in the island. So starting from as A1, A2, B1, B2, C1 and C2. So all over the country we have around 168 Leo clubs, plus over 9,000 membership. So as you can see, each of our leaders have a team defined to suit best to their position in their districts. So yet we are united standing in one name of building all our members to be leaders. And not just leaders, but ones who are empathies of correspondent and have all their ears, eyes and hands open to serve all. So from covering all over the corners, all over the areas in the country. So we are bowling and revolving through the set traits include in each and every Leo soul. The key trait is that the Leo's Android administrative framework always makes sure our youth proves the accuracy of the service of financial transparency. And all the services we deliver and leaders we build are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, National Youth Service Council goals and our own goals set by the Lions Clubs International. So each project at the attribute of them are poorly defined by these standard sets. So next move on to our impact to the community. So Leo Club's whole motive is to build more leaders. Yet again, we don't believe in classroom acts, but only in the hands-on selfless spirits in action. So the 15,000 projects that we deliver are through 34 categories aimed with highly specified timely courses. So for children, from building the schools to counseling to build mental hygiene for environment, for reforestation projects with the Air Force, for our seniors, from introducing retirement plans to being the main eyesight caretakers. And there are many arenas where we give our best as much as we can. But then again, it is not a journey we travel alone, but many organizations, military forces and governmental organizations, governmental leaders empowers us to make positive impact to the country. So it is not only the community we serve, we as a movement provides our members the opportunity, experience to be leaders. The youth leadership camps at military bases camps, numerous quizzes competitions, international exchange programs, to gain our youth the exposure need to grow themselves to human leads in society. So our impact to youth leadership, one of the major focus Leo Club program is to build the leaders. So Leo Multiple District has conducted many programs such as Trailblazer Leadership Conference and many more workshops to empower the youth of leadership. So Leo Leadership Graduation Program is a novel concept implemented by the Leo Multiple District 306 to organize and to recognize the high performance leadership of most outstanding Leos. And as our impact to the sports, we understand that the sports plays a vital part in grooming young individuals. So our clubs conducted many sports activities. We have Leo Olympics, we have aquatics, and we have pro karting tournaments, basketball competitions, cricket tournaments, so and so. So in recognizing the leaders for their achievement, at annual conference provides a sense accomplished to all our members. So this is a sample picture of our annual conference. So in each year, the June end of each year, we are conducting a conference to appreciate their hard work during the Leostic year. And let's move on to the pandemic situation, how our Leos are working with the COVID situation. So the pandemic truly as a humanity once again, while giving us an opportunity to the strong as we serve. We have always been on front line at any given disaster, just as that. In this, our Leos were able to conduct numerous virtual activities featuring many arenas during the pandemic situation in the past 7 and 8 months, the Leostic year. And the Leoism is always about inspiring others. So with the 9,000 youth with us from all over the country, we are all one name, one goal to achieve one result. Our way to build leaders is empowering our volunteers to give more than they take, selfishly, empathically, by modeling them with supreme dignity. So thank you once again. So this is the Leo Club program, and this is the Leos of Sri Lanka program and the overview. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Leo Champaka Damage. And moving on, next is Rotaract District 3220. It was introduced to Sri Lanka in 1969 and is one of the youth organizations led by proactive and dynamic individuals in the country above the age of 18 years. And since inception, it has evolved as a strong youth-led platform, nurturing fellowship and leadership for social innovation in the country. Rotaractor Kasun Sigera, you are invited on stage to address the gathering on the vision and mission to set refined youth leadership role in Sri Lankan youth.
Let us all give a big welcome for the Rotaracts in the Fusion V 2021.
𝐼𝐵 Vanakkam, Assalamu Alaikum. Since there's no one in the vicinity of one meet, I think I can afford to remove the mask. Well, a very good evening to all of you who are here. It has obviously been a dream for all the volunteers of the country to come to one forum, especially during a pandemic, where all our efforts could be benefiting the millions of disconnected youth and the communities of our country. So the challenge is to, within a few minutes, try our level best to summarize what Rotaract is. So I'll try my level best, especially after three fabulous speakers, addressing all of you, introducing what the organizations are standing for, which they represent. So Rotaract, well, as you see, there are two national flags that is up there. That is Rotaract 3220, which is Sri Lanka and Maldives, which we as one district governs right now. And speaking of which, we are a part of Rotary International, which is a service organization well reputed for its efforts of eliminating polio and even beyond. As you know, we are a part of the pandemic right now. So imagine what it would have been in a time period where there was no connectivity and still have polio cases happening all around the world. So, which obviously determines that there is so much effort, so much of contribution that we as humans, we as volunteers, and especially as the youth could do. So I'll try my level best to summarize in a glimpse as to what Rotaract Sri Lanka and Maldives is all about. If you could move on. Right, so this year, starting from the 1st of July, we had one vision when we started our journey as Rotaractors. Well, expanding our presence into all administrative provinces of our country and obviously in Maldives, and establishing ourselves as a youth-led organization for professional and personal growth while connecting the disconnected youth of our country and ensuring that our services reach individuals and communities that deserves our help. So this was the vision that we started our operations this year in a transitional period of the first wave of a pandemic. And moving on, just to give a little bit of a summary about what Rotaract is. Rotaract is a volunteer platform for volunteers above 18 years of age. And for the young ones, we have interactors. If I'm not mistaken, Bhatia was also an interactor. Yes. So we have 7,600 plus Rotaractors who are above the age of 18, serving even as we speak. And currently we are in 8 administrative provinces of our country. And also we have 80 plus Rotaract clubs, primarily serving the purposes of youth development. And we have usually about 2,500 plus projects done every year. But obviously with the pandemic, with life being much more easier to do projects, when it comes to virtual space, I think the numbers would have doubled and tripled. And obviously we are present in 189 countries world across, connecting diverse communities and diverse individuals. Right, so let me just give you a little glimpse about what we do in Rotaract. We are fundamentally not just a community service organization. We are a youth development platform which benefits individuals like me, individuals like you, and individuals all across the globe to become better versions of themselves in terms of their personality and in terms of their careers and in terms of their professional growth. So on the 1st of July, when we started our journey, the 51st year of Rotaract in Sri Lanka and Maldives, obviously we had to set an example as to how we are going to face the challenges of COVID-19. So COVID-19 obviously was a focus area for us. And then when we are transitioning from the first wave of a COVID-19 related pandemic, mental health was the next thing to focus on. And peace and communal harmony, obviously we have enough experience as to why that is important. And education and sustainable livelihoods solves a lot of problems, doesn't it? And environmental and green life, what are we doing about it? I'll show you as we move along. And obviously, extending the hands of humanity towards fellowship and our own membership development. So with those focus areas in our hand, the biggest challenge that Rotaract took this year was how are we contributing towards the COVID-19 and the pandemic. So yes, there would have been a lot of relief programs, there would have been a lot of support that would have been extended, but we thought our role is going to be very different this year. So we thought we are obviously supporting in the prevention of the spread of COVID-19, and obviously we are helping people to train for the new normal, which was the new normal back then and now the normal, and obviously focusing on the most important part, that is community and economic development. The unseen part of COVID-19 was the number of people who lost their jobs, the number of people who did not have access to their next need, the people who were losing out on the sole income that they had, street workers, the daily wage earners. So we wanted to do our part in helping those people survive the next phase of their lives. So 30% of our efforts going into prevention of the spread, and then 30% of our efforts going into, 40% of our efforts going into training and leadership development in terms of the new normal, and then the 30% going back to economic and community development. How have we done so far? I'll tell you. Okay, that's a lot of images. So let me just try to show what we have done in terms of all of those. We carried out 62 initiatives in the support of government's effort in terms of COVID-19 relief. The one on the corner was a project done by Rotaract Club of University of California, which is currently being tested under Ministry of Defense and under Ministry of Health, which was a mobile application done by Rotaractors to go ahead and assist the track of quarantine patients. One of the major challenges right now is trying to track down the mobility of people who are under quarantine, right? Unless the PHI goes and sees, it's almost impossible. So this application can track down who is moving in what radius, obviously assuring the privacy of the person. So that is just one. And obviously, as you see, the one on the right-hand corner where our Rotaractors went and assisted in starting a brand new shop, starting from the scratch of putting the first stone to give this person who lost their jobs to start a brand new career as a self-entrepreneur. All the equipments, all the groceries, everything was supported by Rotaractors. But this is not all. As you see, the usual relief programs helping almost 1,000 schools in terms of sanitization equipments, providing them with the wash basins and everything that was required was done by Rotaractors and obviously with the support of other organizations. But this was not what we really wanted to do in terms of the supply chain integration and assisting the people to continue their livelihood. The beauty of Sri Lanka is the tourism that we promote. So right after Easter Sunday bombing, we took a hit. And then right after, during the transitional period of COVID-19, again, we had to lock down. So how did we do our part? We started promoting all the attractions of Sri Lanka to the Rotaract community internationally. We were supposed to have the first ever international Raila in Sri Lanka happening in the month of March, which obviously right now we can't do. But we started promoting, we started writing blog articles. We went and assisted the small scale hotels to promote their products and promote their services to the domestic customers by obviously doing what we do best, that is helping them with our social media, right? So the financial values in terms, if you were to convert this to a simple marketing campaign that a company would do, I think I'll let you do the math. But this is just one perspective of what we have done. We invested our time and efforts on education. Even as we speak, there are 8 different schools that are being built. There are schools that are being facilitated and our volunteers going and helping them to learn better, to do better. That's just one initiative called Together Itself. And I think this is something that I can bring you your attention since we have a few corporate personalities, since we have the leadership of the government. This is a very famous area that all of us take pride in. This is the Valigama Beach, if you see, the one in the corner. And if you see the pictures residing next to them, that is also Valigama Beach, just 50 meters. And this is as updated as it gets because it was yesterday. The pictures were taken yesterday. So one of the major concerns that people of the area has is the addition of polythene and plastics. People who goes out there to serve, people who goes there to dive, they come up with a lot of trash, which they are not supposed to bring back. So how are we to contribute here? We took an initiative called Clean Cell, where we are piloting the project of developing one of the only industrial waste traps of our waste, again funded and trying to do a swim upstream so that plastic does not get added. So this is a project that is in implementation even as we speak. Well, this is just a glimpse of what Rotaract does, but this is another project that we do in terms of facilitation annually of all the Down syndrome kids. We speak of an age period where Down syndrome kids are now even national Olympic athletes. We speak of a time period where they are professionals. So we wanted to stand for what they stand, and they can normalize being a Down syndrome patient and still live in the society that we live in. So it's an annual project that Rotaract take pride in doing. Well, I know it's a lot of presentation, but let me just try to keep it short. Well, this is one on the left is a sustainable village that we took on. When we say sustainable, not just the usual sustainable, and 360-degree development in economy, in terms of education, in terms of power, where we converted one of the villages initially, and now 3 villages have been converted as real sustainable villages. And then right next to that, that is where Rotaractors went and converted the entire mechanism of how we study, not from the usual Braille system, but going and converting what we study into an audio book, not just one book, but 7,000 plus in audio books, so that people can refer who are visually impaired. So this is just a glimpse of what Rotaract does. I could keep on going, but I'll just leave you with this one particular project. What is on the left are some steel barriers. What is on the right is concrete. What is on the right is actually coral reefs growing. So after years and months of research, Rotaractors were capable of going and planting these metal barriers in Hikkadu so that coral reefs can grow back again. So this is what we do as volunteers. I take tremendous pleasure in having addressed all of you as a leading youth volunteer organization, and have so much respect for all the leaders of Sri Lanka for taking this initiative in bringing all the youth volunteer organisms. The agendas that we operate in, our paradigm of operation, all of need to change because we are transitioning from a global pandemic. I thank all of you for giving this opportunity, and I thank the ministry for taking the opportunity and obviously connecting all of us. But there are so many other organizations, grassroots level organizations, which deserve the support. So I request kindly for us to continue and have one forum for all of us to come together, so that the deserving communities and the individuals of our country reaches the benefits of true volunteerism. I thank you very much. Have a very pleasant day ahead.
Thank you, Rotaractor Kasun Sigera. That was a relatively very insightful address that you provided.
Yes, indeed, Dinusha. Thank you, AIESEC. Thank you, Junior Chambers International. Thank you, Leos, and thank you, Rotaract, for making a meaningful gathering for all of us who are present here, and also for all of us watching online today in this wonderful Symposium of Fusion V 2021. Dinusha, තරුණයින්ට නායකත්වයේ සැපීම කෙතරම් අමාරු කටයුත්තක්ද අපහසු කටයුත්තක්ද කියලා අද මෙතන එකතු වෙලා ඉන්න සියලුම තරුණ නායකයන් දන්නවා. ඉතින් අපි හිතුවොත් මුළු රටක තරුණයට නායකත්වය දීම කෙසේනම් අපහසු කටයුත්තක් වේද? ඉතින් තරුණය කියන්නේ රටක ජවය. ඒ වගේම තරුණය සංකේතවත් කරන්නේ රටේ ශක්තිය නැත්නම් රටේ ඉදිරි අනාගතය. ඉතින් මේ සියලු කටයුතු සමගම මේ තරුණයට නායකත්වය දීම ලේසි පහසු කටයුත්තක් නෙමෙයි. ඉතින් නමුත් මේ සියල්ලට සවියක් දෙමින් අද දවසේදී තරුණ නායකත්වය ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තරුණ නායකත්වය අද දවසේදී අපත් සමග එකතු වෙනවා. ඉතින් අතර වාරේ මතක් කරන්න කැමති තරුණයේ සමග එකතු වෙන අපි හැම දෙනාටම ක්‍රීඩාව කියන්නේත් අපේ ඒ හා සමගාමීව අපිට හැම වෙලේම අත්‍යවශ්‍ය කාර්යයක්. ඉතින් තරුණයට සහ ක්‍රීඩාවට ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ නායකත්වය ලැබී ඇති හොඳම කාලවකවානුවක තමයි අපි Fusion V සමගින් අද දවසේදී එකතු වන්නේ. දිනුෂා?
Yes. The chief guest of the event today needs no introduction. He is a very well-known personality. The Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports of Social Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha. Being entrusted with the youth of the country, there is no other ideal person to grace this occasion as chief guest but you. The stage is yours to enlighten those young leaders on the vision of youth. I'm sure you're much delighted to share your thoughts on hearing what these young leaders expressed here today about their journey in volunteerism.
நிகழ்வின் அடுத்த கட்டமாக இன்றைய பிரதம விருந்தினராக வருகை தந்திருக்கும் இலங்கை ஜனநாயக சோசலிச குடியரசின் இளைஞர் மற்றும் விளையாட்டுத்துறை அமைச்சின் அமைச்சரவை அமைச்சர் நாமல் ராஜபக்ஷ அவர்களை அன்புடன் உரையாற்றுமாறு அழைக்கின்றோம்.
Let's all give a big hand for our chief guest of this wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to speak a few words today about volunteers. And more than that, I'm glad that we managed to get all of you to one forum and to discuss about the way future, about our way forward and what are we going to do in the future. So talking about volunteerism is not something new for all of us. In my hometown, so we started this from Shramadana, and today it has become a big social movement where we all operate separately but for a common cause. We all of you, even though you have your respective organization mandates, constitutions or criteria, but the ultimate goal of all of you is to serve your community and to create leaders among us. I personally believe the era of politicians creating social leadership is over. Today, it is the social leadership that creates political leadership. So the time has changed. So we believe as a country, when we are moving forward, we have to keep that in mind and create more social leaders who are socially responsible. So in that way, we will create more responsible political leadership in our country. Sri Lanka and youth doesn't have a pleasant history, to be honest. Starting from 83 riots, which end up as one of the most ruthless terrorist organizations in the world, which introduced human bombing or exploring human cells with explosives, and child soldiers to suicide themselves for no reason. And on the other side, we had the Southern Youth Uprising in the South, purely based on a political movement. The cause would have been right for both parties at that time. Definitely you and me won't agree with it. But reality is that we had more than 100,000 youth giving up their lives for no reason the last 30 years. So it is the time has come for us to revolutionize the youth movement and adapt and change according to the current demands. The youth uprisings in the South and North, which end up as terrorist organization, even today we see most of us talks about our rights. Api aithiya. We fight for our rights. But I haven't seen we talk about our responsibilities. Api wagakiyama ගැන අපි කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. So I think that today's youth must not only talk about your rights, but also act on your responsibilities and be responsible. Take responsibility for your life, for your colleagues' lives, for the decisions you make, for statements you do. Most importantly, how you behave socially and on social media as well. We see a lot of negative stories going around, negative sentiments throughout social media platforms. So as usual, we always blame the social media platforms. We don't see the positive side of it. We have seen countries converting themselves to million-dollar industries to their social media platforms. We have seen tech startups becoming unicorns, even countries like in Estonia with just 1.2 million population. That because they are not only talking about their rights, but also about their responsibilities. So today, Sri Lanka has a great opportunity to step up and move forward in the world, not only as a country that has done things that people thought that we could never do, but also become a real gem in the region and in the globe. So this is what we believe as a Ministry of Sports and Youth. We must not only fight for our rights, but also be a responsible youth, responsible citizen. That's why all of you are here today, who gives leadership to different organizations. But you take responsibility and you act on that. All your members are responsible members. They do things responsibly, with a lot of responsibility, and that will change many lives in our country. So we believe this forum, as one of our colleagues just mentioned, Fusion V, should reach to the grassroots. So when we met the Leo Club a few months ago, we wanted you to come together to a single platform. As I mentioned earlier, you may have different mandates, different areas of focus, but yet we all are on one common platform that is for humanity and serve for our people. So we believe we can bring all of you under one platform where we can work as Fusion V group and also look at the possibility of organizing a World Youth Conference with your respective parent organizations, local and globally. So in that way, entire global community can come together in Sri Lanka to create a model of crowdsourcing, to create policies for youth in our country. So on a final note, let me congratulate all of you. When you look at the work you all have done, so we're really proud of you guys and really happy to be part of you and to help you and also to guide you to move forward. And after this, you will have the opportunity of joining the panel discussion with Katsuri and Bhati, Santush and rest of the panelists, where you will be able to ask them questions, and I'm sure they will guide you. How I met Bhati and Santush also through Rotaract. So long years ago, one of my friends, a group of friends were organizing an event, so I had to help them. That's why I ended up getting to know them. So Sri Lanka is a very small country with a big heart. So we can do a lot, and we can be the global hub and also create a platform for the rest of the world to come together, irrespective of which language, irrespective of which religion they believe in, and keeping all the geopolitics aside. Sri Lanka is the only country in the South Asia where SAARC countries can come together, where BIMSTEC countries can come together. European Union, or you represent the West, East, we all can come together. So this is what we believe as a Ministry of Sports and Youth, that we have to create this platform for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we would like to invite for you to remain on stage for our chief guest of this wonderful occasion, Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, to remain on stage to mark and recognize the keynotes of the first session of the Fusion V. And also, by the meantime, let's give a wonderful round of applause for that inspirational speech for once again to Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, and also gracing this wonderful evening, a colorful one as well.
Yes, Leo Multiple District 306 is humbly honored and proud to have you all here today, with the ultimate goal of having a better understanding and the bonds thus freshen this event today, and it will for the coming years as well. We request you to accept these tokens of appreciation for being here today with us for Fusion V 2021. And to give away the tokens of appreciation, I would like to invite the chief guest of the event, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha and Leo Multiple District President 𝐷𝐿𝐼𝐻 Champaka Damage on stage. Starting off with Country President AIESEC Sri Lanka, Mr. Synergizing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Country President of the AIESEC Sri Lanka, Mr. Synergizing.
Followed by Mr. Yasvin Rodrigo from JCI Junior Chambers International Movement.
In representing the President of the JCI, Dr. Dilhan Jayatilaka. Mr. Yasvin Rodrigo representing Junior Chambers International.
Up next, Rotaract Havinda Kasun Sigera, District Rotaract Representative, Rotaract District 3220.
Please give a round of applause for the Rotaract District 3220 from Sri Lanka and Maldives.
And next, we would like to invite Mr. Julian Bowling from National Sports Council. Followed by Mr. Mark Morris, Media Secretary to the Minister, without whom we would not have held this event so successfully. Mr. Mark Morris, thank you for your cooperation provided in organizing this event, and we very much appreciate your effort. Thank you. Chief guest of the event today, Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, you were the guidance behind of what we are seeing here today. It's a creation of a synergized platform for the youth in Sri Lanka. And if not for your support and thoughts, this event would not have been possible. We are more than proud to see the results of this event and more grateful for the opportunities lying ahead to extend these programs that we are carrying out. Please accept our sincere gratitude by accepting this token of appreciation which marks the success of this event.
Another big thank you for our chief guest of this occasion, Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha.
Before our honorary chief guests leave, we wish to invite the presidents of Rotaract, AIESEC and JCI to join in taking a group photo with our chief guest, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha. And we would also like to invite the panelists who are present here today to join with the leaders of the youth organizations of Sri Lanka in taking the group photo with our chief guest.
The Country Coordinator of United Nations Volunteers, Sri Lanka, Ms. 𝐸𝐨𝐳𝐕, the performance artist, Ms. Bharatiya Jayakodi, and Mr. Santosh Veeraman, the Group CEO of Hemas Holding, Ms. Kasturi Chayaraja Wilson, to join us on stage for a group photograph with all the young leaders of the voluntary service. And also the Chairman and the Director General of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Teshara Jayasinghe, and also the moderator of our wonderful evening, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, to join us on stage. Thank you very much. And with that, we mark the end of the first session. And we've been looking forward in all your presence for the second session, and that you've been looking forward, has been all looking forward to engage with us and the elite panel of the wonderful evening. But before that, there's another special entertainment act ready for all of us to engage and revitalize in also looking forward for the second session of the Fusion V 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, the stage is going to be unveiled for a special entertainment act. And by the meantime, keep your fingers across to the second session of the Fusion V.
Good evening, everyone. With the permission of the special dignitaries of this occasion, we are the Leos of Leo Club of Colombo New Century. Hope you have a wonderful evening.
Check. Check. Check.
හැඟුමන් සිතින් පියඹලා එනවා ඔබ සොයා තනි වී පරුවේම අදුතේ යහනතේ හීනයක් මෙන් සිතා දැනුණා මගේ ඔබේ හීනේ දින දමා ඔබ ගියේ
වැටුණා කුළුඳු සිත කෙටි කැවුණා
මරියාවට නෑ මේ දුක කීවේ වැල්ලේ හැදුවට බන්දල් පන්නේ
මොහොතක යාමක් නුඹලකින්නේ කොහොමද කියපන් මගේ රත්තරනේ
හොයියා 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 හොයියා
රස්සාවට මේ කල්මට දුන්නේ හිතේ දුකක් පාමදනෙන්නේ සත්තයි පපුයින්මයි කියන්නේ
වලාලයක් ගැන කම්මයි කන්නේ වාරුකමේදී බැල් පිළිගන්නේ දෙවේල සුළුවෙන් පිරිමහගන්නේ එහෙමත් දාතයි මුකොම නැත්තේ හොයියා 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 හොයියා
හොයියා
හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා හොයියා Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very much for that wonderful entertainment act. And let's all give another wonderful round of applause for the Leos who have made us impressed with their performance in order to make this wonderful evening another colorful event as well. And also, slowly but steadily, now we have came across for the most awaited moment of the Fusion V 2021 Symphony of Synergizing Youth Volunteers, organized by Leo Multiple District 306 together with Ministry of Youth and Sports. And it is none other than the panel discussion that you've been all looking forward, ladies and gentlemen. And in order to make this event much more interesting, we would now like to introduce the elite panel, distinguished panel of the Fusion V 2021. To do the honors, I would like to invite Dinusha to introduce our elite panel for the Fusion 2021.
Yes, first and foremost, the moderator of the discussion, an inspiring person who is a true volunteer, a role model and a vibrant personality. Very much loved by the Leos and Lions of Sri Lanka, who is one of our own Leo Pass district presidents. Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, Assistant Vice President Private Banking at Nations Trust, Sri Lanka. Volunteerism is a crucial element in building motivated young leaders and a global getaway to better opportunities. Please welcome Ms. Namal Rajapaksha to join the panel discussion to share her thoughts on international volunteerism. the country coordinator of the United Nations Volunteers. To give a grand insight to the leaders of tomorrow on climbing the corporate ladder through the lens of her own experience and expertise in the business world, we believe she is an exceptional role model that is a rare gem in our country. The first female to give leadership to a conglomerate in Sri Lanka, Ms. Kasturi Chelaraja, Group CEO of Hemas Holdings. To explore ways to overcome crisis situations with music and other aesthetic skills, helping young leaders to mold themselves into a better vision. A distinguished musician of the iconic pop duo BNS and an entrepreneur, Mr. Santosh Veeraman. In the pursuit of guiding the young leaders to emerge as successful icons, using their explicit talents while overcoming hardships and challenges that are posed by the society. Finally, to become leaders of Sri Lanka, Mr. Bhathiya Jayakodi. To enlighten the young leaders of enhancing the youth service platform in Sri Lanka by exposing us to many insights of Sri Lankan youth actions, there is no one greater than him, Chairman of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Tashara Jayasinghe. With such an effective and constructive discussion, outstanding leaders by our community, we are certain that we will leave our volunteers here today inspired for many years.
நாம் அனைவரும் காத்து கொண்டிருந்த அந்த முக்கியமான தருணம் இப்பொழுது அரங்கேற காத்திருக்கின்றது. ஆம், ஃபியூஷன் வி 2021 முக்கிய பிரமுகர்களான இந்த அனைவரும் இப்பொழுது எங்களுக்காக இணைந்து செயலின் வினையூக்கிகள் என்ற தலைப்பில் தங்களுடைய குழு விவாதத்தினை ஆரம்பிக்க இருக்கின்றனர். இதோ உங்களுக்காக.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm round of applause and welcome our elite panel for the Fusion V, and I'd like to hand over the microphone to none other than the moderator of this wonderful evening, 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐕, the Assistant Vice President of the Private Bank at Nations Trust Bank. Thank you very much.
Right. Right. So good evening, everyone. And firstly, let me congratulate the Leos of Sri Lanka for organizing this fabulous event, which is Fusion V, a symposium of synergizing volunteers. So I think it's great to see some of the leading voluntary service organizations in the country coming together for a common cause, so which is none other than the Leo clubs, the JCs, and the Rotaract, and the AIESEC clubs. And I'm sure there are more and more non-voluntary organizations, same as these 4 institutions, who work tirelessly, so let's not forget them as well. So just to kick off the session, if I may put in things to context, if you look at the Sri Lankan, the population out of 22 million, about 4.4 million, we have a young population. So as a percentage, it's about 24% of our population considered with youth. And in my view, unarguably, youth of our country plays a key role. Youth have a role to renew and refresh the current status of the society in leadership, innovation, and skills. And also, our youth is expected to advance the current technology, education, politics, peace, culture, and good values. In South Asian context, I think Sri Lankan youth has gone multiple cycles. I think the Honorable Minister correctly touched it. So if I may recall, 1971, 1988, 1989, we had youth uprisings. And also, not forgetting the bad patches that we had, the tsunami in 2004, and of course the 30-year brutal war that we had to go through, and the one before the last, which is the East attack. So despite all these gaps, or rather impact what we had, I think Sri Lankan youth demonstrated brilliant resilience in both global and local contexts in wide range of platforms. So all our panelists who are here actually also demonstrated same set of capabilities in their respective fields. So we are glad to have you. So in that context, in my view, youth volunteers have been silently serving the nation and also making a significant impact in people's life. Some youth voluntary organizations actually in existence since 1969, as some of the presentations also attested the same. So finally, I firmly believe life is like a game of tennis, because it starts with serving others and love all. So with that, let me move to the first question, and I would like if Teshara could enlighten us with your definition of youth empowerment and why it's critical to Sri Lanka.
Thanks, Asita, and also I'd like to thank Leos for inviting me over here and for the panelists. And well, as far as the government is concerned, or the NYEC is concerned, like you mentioned, the country's population, about 25% roughly is the youth. So when it comes to empowerment, empowerment will cover a broader spectrum like education, access to education, access to proper training, access to financial assistance, and also the opportunity youth get to develop themselves beyond the usual paradigms. I mean, go out there and achieve what their true potential is. So the definition, I would say, it's about giving the youth, empowering the youth to go out there and explore themselves and achieve their true potential without being confined to the paradigms that is being set in by the previous generations. I think that's what the definition, if I have to give one.
Yeah. Thank you, Teshara. So with that, let me move to Kasturi. Because the youth and employment, and of course the flip side of the coin is unemployment, goes hand in hand. So in your view, Kasturi, the role of youth in current corporate culture and the management expectations. Because I would like to strike a balance between, rather than speaking about volunteering and volunteerism, I would like to bring in more about corporate element as well, because that's something our youth willing to understand as well.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, and thanks to Leo and also all three youth organizations. I think it's amazing to come together to make a meaningful impact. From a corporate point of view, I'll start from the back. You said from a management expectation. So if you give today's current climate of what Sri Lanka is going through, we've got, I think, debt to GDP ratio is in the upper 90s or mid 90s, which is tough. So what do we need to recover? We need organizations to really kickstart their growth, whether it's domestic or whether it's exports, finding new exports. Now to do this, to be fast in growth, you have to be agile. And to get agile, remember these corporates have been there for, the old bigger corporates have been there for 50 years, 70 years, 100 years. It's not easy to be agile. Right? And to do that, what's the culture you need? You need a culture which is a can-do attitude, who are versatile, who have the freedom of speech, who understand what freedom of speech, like he said, not having no encumbrances about biases, or I can't do it, or the structure, or saying the politics. So the youth play a big part in this. They play a big part in bringing that innovation, experimental, can-do attitude. It brings a big part, they play a big part in bringing that agile kind of workforce. It's easier said than done, and our challenge personally, when Hemas have just opened out to recruit 20 different youth, diverse backgrounds. I said get from musicians to engineers to accountants, put them out there. But we need to create the culture for them to impact companies. But they are a big part of us driving growth. So it's very important. They play a big part. And they have to have the voice to change the culture as well. So yeah, it's a critical part. It's all in their hands, and actually this is the time to get them in and help us to think more innovative.
Of course. Thank you, Kasturi. So let me take this question to Santosh. Yeah. So not to again to guess your age, because you represent multiple generations. And so what types of transition that you observe in youth in Sri Lanka during especially the last 2 decades?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting for a great panel like this, and see many organizations getting together and doing something great. And this is what we need for a country also, everyone getting together. Talking about the transition of the youth during the past 20 years, something that I would remarkably say is comparing to the 1980s, 70s. In the recent past, we see quite a strong transition due to the digital age. Right? So after year 2000, the digital forces have hit the youth, right? And that has been the result, that has been the reason for all these transitions. One area I would say, they have become more savvy as to understand how to do a thing, right? They are very curious about doing certain things, and they have transformed into individuals who are very, they're quite curious about doing things as per to 20 years ago, and they know how to do things, but they don't have the time to understand, to spend some time to reason out within themselves, why am I doing this? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people had time to sit and have a chat with a friend, right? Have a chat with your mom. Mom, why are you doing this? Why should we do this? Have a chat with your father. So we had this, spare time to discuss. Why are they doing this program? Why are we doing this? Why are we taking part in this game? Why are we doing this race? Why are we planning to win this game? All these things, the reason. But that has reduced. Now everyone is forcing themselves to do the thing. So they are very curious about how to do it, and even in the digital phase of media streams, there are lots of solutions as to how to do things, right? So there is a very strong transition, as in people, the current youth, they are very great in doing things, finding solutions, how to do things, right? But we lack slightly as to why we are doing it, the reason, that's one. Then we have transformed into a space where we are very outspoken, right? But compared to what we are very outspoken. There is so much of freedom in speech, right? So that is a space, again there is a transition. Entrepreneurship is a very strong link. Nowadays, if you talk to a youth who's in their 20s, they don't want to do a job. Majority, they want to do something on their own. They have dreams, right? Gone are the days where I think I believe there was a time where even our country, where parents were saying, okay, everyone is pushing to be a doctor, lawyer, right? But now it is difficult to suppress a child. They have their own dreams, You ask the young children today, it is not a problem of them, trying to be forced by a parent to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. No, they want to be a musician. They want to be a peacekeeper. They want to look at sustainability. They want to be an artist. They want to be a sportsman. They have a lot of dreams, right? So the freedom of thinking. So we have transformed into many areas. But what is important for us to give the youth is for them to understand why they are doing this, for them to understand some more the philosophical side of life, right? And then give them the thinking as to whatever they want to do, how it would benefit themselves and the others. This is what is lacking. Everyone wants to do something, but they don't know why they want to do it, right? So it is very easy for them to transform into trends, and they follow those trends, not knowing why. So they keep on. So there is all these, they get caught to these social trends. So these are the transitions that are negative to our youth, which is, especially as a developing country. We have so much of resources in terms of human resource, of a lot of intellectuality, creativity. So we need to safeguard our youth and drive them in the correct direction to make a better country. So these are some of the transitions that you would see very strongly during the recent past.
Thanks. I think, so we have a great platform. So Kasturi actually spoke about agility and Santosh spoke about the purpose. And with the two learnings, let me turn to Bhatia. Yeah? Bhatia, in your view, based on what Kasturi and Santosh said,
yes,
the present youth, in your view, would they take adequate risk? Because yes, we need to have a purpose, yes, we got to be agile, but nothing will be materialized, nothing will be commercialized unless otherwise we take a calculated risk. And especially with the new normal, of course you run with risk, be it business, be it a volunteer organization, you run that risk. So what's your view?
Okay, now since everybody said that, we're talking in a nice sequence, it's a good question that you posed to me. So how I see it is that risk, if you take the current percentage of young people taking risks, it has gone up. You see a lot of young people wanting to take the risk and they jump in. They will jump in straight to the deep end. But the problem is, when you take risks, one thing that you need to make sure is that you stay focused. You stay focused right to the end, because otherwise that risk that you took wouldn't actually really drive you all that way to the end, because see, you need to stay focused and you need to keep driving, right?
Consistency.
Because if not, if you don't bring in say consistency to that, the risk that you took, you might not really go there. So the problem that again I see is through social, through a lot of social, say the media, and through the way that the world has changed right now, the young people really find it hard to stay focused until the end. The reason for it is because you get a lot of opinions. You get a lot of opinions being bombarded, a lot of, opinions. So even if you take a place like Sri Lanka, I think it's the most difficult time even for a country's leader to lead a country. Because you get 65,000 opinions of the same thing. And everybody thinks that they're right. So for a young person, it's a dreadful situation. You take that risk, you jump in, and then what? Now, if you take us, we, school, then we did a higher education, we were in 2 top corporate jobs. Then we thought, no, we're going to sing. So there was a big group of people who thought we were crazy, including our own, family members. And there were few who really supported us. But that big group only a few got a chance to come and say it to us. So we kept our focus right to the end and we pushed through, right? But now, if we were in the, if we were in a very present context to what the youth today have to go through, a lot of them take the risk, jump into it, and halfway down the line they leave because of the social pressure, right? And they have a much tougher time. So it's up to the present leaders, the leadership as in everybody. I'm not talking about just one leadership, this thing. It can be schools, it can be associations, it can be companies. The leadership needs to make sure that that pressure is minimized and you let them strive, focus and go towards the end. So as much as a lot of young people take risks, most of them don't see it to the end. So this is a big problem that we have. Yes, they do take risks, but only a few of them will strive and push it to the end. So that is a problem that we need to address as a nation.
Yeah. That's great. So I can just, while you were speaking, actually, I was just thinking, what if the Facebook was exist at that time? You had your first album released in 1998. I can imagine, because as youngsters, we were listening to you, and I can very well remember how the entire society reacted. I mean, if the social media
actually
had at that time,
you're correct. You're correct. Because say, if we had social media back then, it would have been really hard for us to focus. Because right now, even like say, after 21 years, we are on a show right now, and you. If you go to read those opinions, you're not going to do your job right. So you just need to take the core of it and take a little bits and pieces of that, and then can formulate your own idea and then push through. If not, for a young person, it's tremendous pressure. Especially if you're under 25, you 80% will crack.
Perfect. So taking risk is fine, but you got to be consistent, right?
You have to be consistent.
Exactly.
You have to be focused in a deadly manner. Because if you don't, it's easy for you to stray off in these times.
So with that, I'll take your learnings and pose the next question to you again, Bhatia. So Santosh, you could supplement as well. How youth can evolve, breaking and define boundaries in a society to become an icon? I know both questions goes hand in hand.
Okay. So being an icon is not something that you plan to do. Being an icon, you can't say, I want to become an icon, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That doesn't happen that way. You become an icon because you have a clear vision. You have to have a vision. Like in any field, you have to have a clear vision, and you need to firmly believe in that vision. And that vision should not be about you. It has to be something larger than life, which would impact the way we do things, or which would answer to a big question on how we could do things quite differently than to what we were doing it. So if you want to become an icon, or if you are to become an icon, you need to have a strong vision, and you need to be a person who is focused at changing the present landscape of something and making it better. Right? So if you take across like sports, you take anything, people who have become icons are people who have taken the present landscape and shaped it to something much better, or something entirely different, and it's an alternate pathway, or they have shaped it into being something really better than what it is. So the fundamental of somebody becoming an icon is to have a great 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐢𝐨𝐕 in changing the present landscape of anything that you choose?
Thank you.
Say, okay, say someone want to be an icon. It's you can't just plan and become one. Of course, to a certain extent you could. As I think, as you said, I think passion is the most important thing. But then, how do you find passion? Can you go and buy it somewhere? No. Passion is all about understanding or listening to what your heart says. So from small days, from small days, your heart always talks to you, right? Says, okay, you like to do that, so why don't you go and try it? But then your mind says, should I do it? I'm scared, all those things. But this keeps on going. But then at somewhere down the line, you don't listen to your heart, you do other things. Then later on in life, you always repent, I should have done that, I should have done that, right? So you need to understand during your life, at a particular point, you need to listen to your heart and just take that risk and start doing what you really like. So when you find that moment, when you find that particular area, you automatically start build passion towards what you like. Then you need to spend time, invest in learning that art or whatever subject material or for a particular area that you're interested. You have to spend time learning that, your studies to all those areas. So subject matter, you learn that. And then, of course, then you start proceeding with what you like to do. You have to put a lot of effort. Morning, noon, and night, burn the midnight oil and put all your effort. But this will not get you anywhere unless you really take a couple of steps back and think how to get where I want to go. What's my goal? Where do I want to go? Okay, in my particular area or subject matter, there are so many other people. How could I, carve my own space? What do I want to do? Why am I so passionate about it? Why do I, why do I want to do this? You need to ask all these questions yourself and have a plan. Whether you're say a primary school boy who wants to, who's captaining the house and who wants to build, who wants to win the sports meet, or whether you're a cricket team, planning is a must. You need to understand your strengths, you need to understand your opponents, you need to understand what you can do, and finding that niche in the market, to all those things. So marketing, all these subjects comes into matter. Then it's your mind. You know that you're going to face difficulties, you're going to face obstacles. Training your mind emotionally to meet these things when the entire world says no, you can't, still believe that you can and just proceed forward. When you fall down 100 times, still get up and go. So that's building that emotional confidence. So when you put all these things together, somewhere down the line, you'll become someone, and some other person will say, hey, you're icon. So
Exactly.
just a way forward.
Thank you, Santosh. I think just for the benefit of the audience, I think we will not necessarily discuss about volunteerism, because probably we can learn from you about volunteering. So what we do is we discuss a wide array of topics, so that as these panelists exactly discuss about the ideas, the agility, the having the purpose, the consistency, those things we will be able to apply whatever the projects what we do, whatever the organization, whatever the policies that we adopt for the benefit of the country. So with that, let me shift my gears slightly towards to the core area of this event, which is being volunteers. So I think we can't have anyone better than Shamali, who represent UN volunteers. Shamali, so I would like to ask, what's the UN definition of volunteerism, and what are the global phenomena of volunteering that you have seen?
Okay, so let's say a wide question. Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers. Hello? Okay. Thank you. So I hope that I can share some insights, and maybe before I go to the definition of volunteering, can I take up maybe a couple of minutes to talk, because you're talking about the global phenomena. I would like to talk about what the United Nations volunteering is all about. So the UN volunteers is the UN entity within the United Nations that promotes volunteering globally. We have a presence of in 130 countries. So very simply, that is what we are. Our main pillars will be really advocating for recognition and promotion of volunteering. We also want to see integration of volunteering into development programming. And our third pillar is really working on the mobilizing of UN volunteers. So I'll go into that very briefly, just for the benefit of the audience. If we take the advocacy and promotion pillar, we basically spearhead, initiatives that will recognize volunteering. And I think Sri Lanka has really done well in that area, because back in 2011, the UN office, along with the government and several stakeholders, we had the private sector, we had celebrities. It was really a multi-stakeholder initiative where we initiated the Volunteer Awards, or the V Awards. It's a national level event. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about it. I sincerely hope that you've heard about it, because we've by now run 4 editions, and V Awards has gone global. It is our flagship event in Sri Lanka by UNV, but it also has been recognized globally. So it has now several countries in the region and elsewhere also following and doing it. So we would really like to continue it, and what we would like to see is really that V Awards essentially is institutionalized within the government so that it can stay, so because the UN cannot always, spare. We can give concepts, but then it needs to go, it needs to be localized and taken over by the government. That's how essentially it is. And I think it's an opportunity to thank the 2 gentlemen on the panel, Bhatya and Santosh, because they've been very much instrumental in helping us get it off, because an initiative like that will not really get off the ground unless you have enough of stakeholders of different levels. You need the celebrities to, be there. That's how you anchor it at that level, and that's why V Awards became a global brand. It has been recognized by our headquarters. Now, V Awards is not for the United Nations volunteers, but it is essentially for the individual volunteers who serve in the country. And through this, we have brought the most amazing stories, the most amazing volunteers that we have found through this program. So that's on the advocacy side. If we go into integration of volunteering, I think since most of you are from the volunteer community, you might know that Sri Lanka did not have a separate policy on volunteering. And back in, I can see a gentleman nodding, so he knows about it. So after several years of lobbying and hard work with the government, back in August 2019, we managed to get a policy approved. So the policy has been approved, and right now we are working closely with the government to ensure that it is being rolled out. So that's actually a significant contribution and a big achievement for Sri Lanka as a country, because in the region, we join 7 other countries that have separate policies for volunteering. Now, not every country has. So if you take Australia, Malaysia, Philippines, Korea, Singapore, those are the countries that have a separate policy. So Sri Lanka, in that sense, in the volunteering angle, has been making lots of, let's say, progress. Our last pillar of, is really supporting the United Nations agencies to mobilize UN volunteers. And our volunteers are full-time workers, so it's actually professional volunteering that we do. If you give me just a few more minutes, is that okay? Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, what UNV does is really we try to champion environments where volunteerism can really flourish. Now, the definition, I think there are lots of definitions out there for volunteering, but there are 3 main elements that the UN talks about, and that's really, it has to be free will, like we say Shramadana, of course everyone knows in this country, because I think Sri Lanka is really in the volunteering index. I think in 2019, the World Giving Index, we were ranked #1. So yeah, in terms of volunteering time. So there's a lot of volunteering out there. It's just that we don't have the data, unfortunately. So we are hoping that through the ministries, we can actually have a survey done, or put in some survey questions into the labor force survey. So we've been doing some work. The other one is really, it has to be for greater good. So then it becomes a volunteering act. It must be for greater good, not for, your own self. And the third element is really about, with no expectation of a monetary gain. So those are the three elements from the UN side. But I also want to touch that. You have to remember that volunteering is not small in the global context, because according to the State Volunteering Report, there are more than 1 billion volunteers in the world, active volunteers. And that equals 109 million full-time workers. Now that cannot be discounted, because that means a huge contribution going into the GDP of different countries and nations. So I think really, if you talk of the global scenario, we have to remember Sri Lanka is no different, because there is a lot of volunteering. It's just that we are missing data. Now we saw some of the presentations of the agencies of the work they are doing, but a lot of it doesn't get documented or collected. So we hope with the policy that we have now managed to have, and we are supporting the government to establish the National Volunteering Secretariat, which is going to be embedded in the Department of Social Services. So we really hope with these things in place, with the infrastructure, that moving forward, some of these elements will actually get captured, and the good stories, and it will not get lost from the country. Just two last points on the volunteering is really about the informal volunteering and the formal volunteering sector. So all of you who are here today are really from the formal volunteering, because of, it's related to an organization very much like how UN Volunteers is. But 70% of the world volunteering happens really on an individual basis. And that's really the informal sector, and that is massive, because that's the one that is harder to capture. So I think with that, I will sort of end the introduction on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Shamil, for that drilling into more, technical details and sharing more insights. I think that's I think for the organizers, I think the Fusion V already achieved one of your objectives, because you created that synergy. Because I have been associating all four, I would say, organizations for the past, so many years, and I have personally seen how much of, amount of, work that has, gone in. I think, but personally, I don't know how many actually volunteers actually had applied for these V awards. Personally, I'm a fan of your project.
Yeah.
Hats off. I mean, thanks to Duo as well for supporting that project. I think that's a fantastic national event. So I think that's a synergy. I think that's why the importance of, these kind of events, so that, we bring those elements. I mean, you comes from a more of a policy sort of a background, establishing the policy, and we have the volunteers who actually actively engage in, bring them to a common platform and bring that synergy. So I'm sure you will see more and more entries coming in from our young volunteers who are joining this program today. So with that, I think you made a very interesting point. So the informal sector is larger than the formal sector, yes. Right? So in that context, so let me touch, I perfectly get what you're saying. So let me touch the more corporate element towards it. Kasturi, I know what I'm up to. So what's your view about the, what's your view about the steps taken by the Sri Lankan corporates to promote volunteerism? So when I say volunteerism, sometimes, we see our organization do, I mean, corporate do, lots of activities, especially during the disaster time. So other than that, I mean, how do you see, I mean, what's your view? What are the areas that we can improve? Of course, you lead a blue chip company.
Yeah. So it's a good point. I mean, and I was listening to Shamali and I realized as Sri Lankans, individually we volunteer a lot. So we have big hearts, and that's a good thing for a small nation with big hearts. While that's individual, these individuals get into a corporate world or do your own business, and then you're too busy with your business and you don't have the same time commitment, or the corporate doesn't give this kind of space for you to do it because it was traditionally not in their agenda. Look at it from a corporate point of view. 15, 20 years ago, it was CSR. And CSR came in forms of charity, it came in forms of supporting disasters. So tsunamis or any catastrophe, they got galvanized. But things have changed. Like I think Santosh alluded to the fact that you always have to have a purpose. I think the corporates have now embraced in the last 3-4 years to have a purpose. That is the heart, why you're existing. And that's not about money, it's about how you impact your community. And that's a social license to operate. Without our knowledge, I mean, like if you look at 𝐼𝐻EMA's, we started this thing 20 years ago about no child left behind, building schools, preschools for underprivileged or economically backward community which doesn't have a preschool. So the child has to go 20 kilometers or something to have access. So the simple thing of give them equality, but it was done with a charity lens, right? And we didn't realize that how to do this. So 2 years ago, we decided we have to have a purpose, and our purpose was healthful living, meaning joyful moments for families, right? Say Unilever has sustainability a marketplace. Everybody picks one. Now what we did was, we as corporates we put money behind, so you have the AIESEC coming because it's a purpose. So that's AIESEC school is where you have children with disabilities who are given diagnosis, skilling up and giving them an opportunity to integrate into society. It's all this thing. We also, those days, about a couple of years back or 5-10 years ago, we had this CS Sustainability Index. So you have to tick a box on water, electricity, environment. It's more box ticking versus now it's part of our agenda. It's part of our employees' agenda. Now you find employees who love the planet, who want animal rights, who want health. It's there. So organizations are forced to change, and it's a good thing purely because we invest so much in the communities because of our social license. Our employees don't see the impact because they are busy doing work, and the impact of the why you do it is not seen by the employees. So the money really and the cause of it is not known. So now companies are really pushing volunteerism and giving them pay. It's part of their job. So you can take 1 day, 2 days off, go and do it. I know the environment club goes on for about 5 weeks to knuckles or something, to plant something, and it's normal now. Previously it's like, okay, somebody's gone to the jungle, why have they gone to the jungle kind of thing. It was not like an accepted thing, it's like waste of company resource, versus now it's good for our country, just allow it. So it's a mindset the corporates have to change. While big corporates are privy to what happens globally and what's good, the SME sector and the smaller family-run corporates have to learn it. And it's learned in the sense of, look, it's your social responsibility. That's what responsibility, it's giving you a license to work. It's giving us all a cause of impacting our country for the better. Otherwise, we are leaving the country in a worse situation, whether it is the environment, whether it's the human rights, whether it's education or malnutrition. We are leaving it in a worse place if we don't take action. We can't leave everything to the government. So it's in the top of the agenda, but I must say it's in different forms. The SMEs might be not doing it as much, but the good thing is, at least if you leave corporates aside, individuals who work in the corporates are part of some movement or the other, of some fight or the other. So I guess it's now how to marry these two and make sure that these purposes are aligned together. So worst will be for us, for me as a CEO, if we have our purpose and I have a bunch of employees who really don't agree with that and want to do something different. So you need to align the employees' purpose and why they want, how they want to impact socially, and the company's purpose together. So it's a journey.
It's a journey. Perfect. Thank you, Kasturi. So with that, Shamli, I would like to turn towards you again. why Sri Lankan youth should consider volunteering without confining themselves to career development, and how Sri Lanka as a country has demonstrated its thought leadership?
That's an interesting question. Let me gather my thoughts. Now, we have 1 billion people who are volunteering globally. But it's also an interesting fact that 1 in every 3 youth actually volunteer. And these are all data coming in from our State of the World Volunteering Report. So globally, it means you have about 600 million youth, which is a formidable force. And it's a group that can really make a lot of difference in any country. I would like to share an experience from UNV, but before that, I think I have personally been with the UN volunteer program for a long time. I have witnessed a lot of youth, because if you take UNV is the agency within the United Nations that has really given the space for the youth to enter the organization. And this came in response to a request that came from the Secretary General to create a space for youth engagement. And UNV headquarters, they actually formed a new modality called the youth volunteer modality, which allows youth to really engage and enter the UN and gain exposure. I will come to that maybe in a minute, but before that I would like to say, having been there for a long time, I have seen lots of people who have come in as maybe on internships. They have come as, we opened a vForce platform back in 2011, and through that what we've seen is a lot of youth have really engaged with us. Now, the vForce platform or the volunteer platform gives an opportunity that is really for anyone who has signed up. They can join and they can support any of our initiatives within the UN. So they'll have an opportunity to gain experience, develop their soft skills, but also exposure to the development sector and what happens in the UN. I've personally witnessed so many young people who've come through that platform, who have served. I mean, we have about 15,000 who have signed up on the platform. And whenever we put a call out to that, it's very interesting to see how many people sign up. They're so enthusiastic. Just last week, we had an emergency call for UNICEF, because they are supporting the government with the collecting data on the vaccination storage. So for that, we put out a call out, and we needed only about 30 volunteers from all over the districts. And we had nearly 300 who had signed up for it. So you can see the interest that is there. They are all willing and able. They can support. So through this platform, we have seen many of them have grown. They first came in as vForce volunteers. They've supported our initiatives. They've, gained their skills. And very, very important really is those competencies which you can't really see. It's not the academic qualifications. That's important, but that's more decoration, because when you bring people in, like Kasturi said, into the organization, you want them to have those qualities like, people, interpersonal, team spirit, those things count, because you need a sort of a holistic person in your office. You don't want people who only are, let's say, have skilled in one area. I think the corporate sector would agree with me, because even for the UN, we look at people, we need rounded people. We need people who can engage with communities, who can talk to the government, who can, we deal with multiple stakeholders. So you need people who can manage all those different actors that we work with. So, we have seen, they've come in, they've served, they've transitioned maybe into an internship or a UN volunteer position. Then they've gone into others like, staff positions and whatever. So I have examples of people who started as vForce and today actually have gone as high as like heading the resident coordinator's office. So it really has given me a sense of pride and really a sense of fulfillment that we managed to, you know, even in a small way, give these opportunities. I mean, the UNV does not have large-scale opportunities, maybe like some of the other aid organizations that are here, but within that scope, we have, on an average, we have managed to give opportunities to about 400 to 500 youth, mainly youth, but everyone else can join even. We've had senior citizens who have volunteered to volunteer through the platform. Yeah, so yeah, I think I'll probably end it there. Talk too much.
Thank you, Shamali.
Yeah.
I think just additional question. So I think that cohesiveness and integration really matters. I mean, having watched, I'm sure you would have, you know, I mean, eagerly watching this presentation. Do you see any scope of, you know, working these organizations as well locally? I mean, get into more grassroots level. I mean, apart from, you know, while having your inner scope, you know, while having your organization scope, or do you see any opportunities of working with these organizations as well?
You mean working with the other?
With other volunteer organizations?
I mean, we do. We've collaborated in different forms with many of the other VIOs, or I don't know, whatever you call it, the volunteer agencies. We've had a lot of collaboration from time to time. We work with AIESEC. We've had lots of, you know, partnerships with Rotaract. We've done a multitude of different activities with the Scouts, with the Girl Guides. So yeah, definitely, we are happy to work with any organization that can fall within the, you know, framework. We are always looking for partners because the UN does not function by itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, we believe in collaboration and partnership. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, if you look collectively, if you take these 4 entities together, got a, you know, a strong footprint across the country. I mean, from north to you know, north to south, east to west. I mean, they got it covered.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So with that, thank you for your answer, Shamini. So with that, let me move to Teshara. Teshara, so my question to you is, again, stemming from the same, in terms of, you know, the philosophy, what are the strategic initiatives and the policy decisions have been taken to enhance the youth empowerment and the volunteerism?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, and it was mentioned by various others here, that
Now it's okay.
Yeah. Well, one key aspect is access to education. If I may explain further, if you look at NYSC alone, we train about 20,000 students every year. And actually in the last quarter, we added a couple of new programs such as robotics, also hybrid technology, IT, etc. into our training schedule. So this is something most people don't know, that we train about 20,000 all in properly vetted programs. And when we selecting them, we selected them on the basis that whether they can really have a future by following these courses. That was one key element that I want to be very sure of. And on top of that, we have other courses like fine arts, moving like motion pictures and all that. I mean, there's about 14 different subjects that we have carefully selected. So that's one element. So the other is actually having access to proper jobs. So jobs actually connected to the training. And in that paradigm, we are also looking at training our youngsters into jobs that are available in the other countries as well, not in the unskilled sector, but in the skilled sector. This goes along with the government policy that we want to reduce the unskilled sector to 10% by 2025. So our immediate target is to reduce to 20%, so unskilled market to 20%, and by 2025 to 10. So it's a huge task. We are only stakeholder in the segment. So we are targeting certain new focus areas like nursing, such as and also caregivers, etc. New training avenues to give our youth the opportunity to travel to other countries and make a living there in the skills sector. And then housing is another problem. And if you go into details, if you ask from the grassroots what the exact problems are, access to affordable housing is one. So not as NYSE, but I know as the government, government has a plan to provide affordable housing to youngsters, young families, and so on. And then we also have recognized youth have less and less space for recreational stuff and sporting, an area that we are heavily investing in. And as NYSE, we have started creating spaces for youngsters. We will call them integrated youth parks, where that they can come and mingle, play music, and they can do their own creations, they can spend time, they can detox themselves, etc. So we have started creating the space at least in one selected location in every district, and we will go into expand that as we go by. And also access to capital is one important thing, because when we discuss about empowerment, something we are missing is the capital infusion. That is something hard to come by when it comes to entrepreneurship and all that. And we are aware now the government is giving 4% capital loan for youth who wants to get into startups. As NYSE, we started a new program called Startup Sri Lanka. We ended the program in the last year, and this year we are about to shoot the 2021 program, where we will be providing close to 50 million capital infusion to various projects by the grassroots level youths. One thing that we see, and mentioning about the volunteer segment in Sri Lanka, the biggest volunteer organization is the Federation of Youth Clubs. I'm the chairman of that also by prerogative, and we have about 350,000 youths registered thus far, and we are increasing the numbers as we talk. So one thing that we always see that in the volunteer segment, there's lack of education and opportunities also afforded to these students, especially those who are from the grassroots. Therefore, we will be starting a program very soon that is directed to attract these youth groups, get the entrepreneurship ideas from them, and have a capital infusion to them, so they will have a sustainable business environment, such as a business that can sustain their social responsibilities, as well as that will give them the line of income to their families, and to maintain their future. So and one key element when it comes to empowerment, one thing that we are struggling as a country is actually the drug abuse. So that we can't actually in that sequence, something that we cannot forget and oversee is that. So we see two aspects to that also. One is prevention, one is rehabilitation. So as NYSE, we will not go into rehabilitation, we have decided, but we will go to prevention. And for that, not just the youth clubs movement, we are now going into schools to educate the children at very early age, and our strategy will be not to discuss on drugs and drug uses, because we have also noticed over the years the statistics has not improved, meaning that it seems like in certain areas or certain kids are getting ideas through the education to try out. So what we have figured out is actually the space that you create to socialize, do other activity, music, sports, and and other recreational matters will help them to create this space and move out of isolation. Mobile phone is one. So as NYSC, we have picked up on these areas, one to empower, the other to actually save them from the danger. So all these 6 paradigms we have selected, and we are treating them as one of our key priorities, along with the ministry's support and the government support, and those are our key priorities for the year, and those are the key decisions and the policies that we have made to the curb the matters concerning the youth, as well as supporting them in terms of empowering them.
Thank you, Tesher. Thank you very much for that very descriptive answer. So when I look at these entities, the volunteering organization as well as NYSC, what I see is growth and opportunities. I think you made a very interesting point, rather a very valid point. To break the vicious cycle of poverty, I think what we need is a CK, not the brand. It's as you correctly said, it's a capital and the knowledge, right? Because I think this, I've been a volunteer since 2003, so both of us are very much aware of it, and I think this is the one area that we can, as volunteers, that we can improve. I mean, yes, feeding them, giving the, providing the basic necessities, that's perfectly fine, and that's, I would say it's the need of the hour as well. But I think as a volunteer organizations, I think we should, look beyond that as well. And I mean, in simple terms, rather than giving feeding a man with a fish, you teach them how to catch a fish, right? So that they will be those people will be more those efforts will be more sustainable and more inclusive as well.
Absolutely.
I think that will pay greater dividends to the country. I'm sure the Kasturi can vouch for me. I'm sure. Since you're into FMCG, Kasturi, I'm sure you must be, finding very difficult to find blue-collar labor. This is what I see when I get to, speak to my clients who come from FMCG, manufacturing. How much that they, struggle to attract the quality trained blue-collar labor, because I think I'm not, blaming in volunteers. It's just that, I think as entities, we should not spoon feed them either. I think what we should do is, we should, I think that's where the synergy comes in. We get them to a proper, because the organizations like entities like, NYSC got all the tools. Personally, I've been associating that entity. Another great platform, as you said, for the more than 2 to 3 decades, providing so much of, training and development for the young people and creating economic opportunities. So I think that's a bridge that we can, work together. Yeah. So I think that's, one takeaway from this session as well. So thank you very much, Tesher, for that. So with that, let me shift my gears from volunteerism a little bit to arts. So my next question is to Bhatia. Bhatia, I would like to see how youth can use arts, to improve the social and economic well-being of the society and move towards more inclusive society with equality, diversity and harmony.
Okay, so I would take that question in, how can I put it? I'll take that question in like 2 folds. One is I will take arts as something that you do for fun and a recreational thing, as you said. Other one is, how do you do arts as a business? So there are two folds to this. So if you take arts for fun and arts for recreation, arts really opens up, right? Arts really opens up a lot of thought in you. As in, it helps you to go to places that you cannot physically go. Say you create a song, you create a movie, you write a book. You can let your mind, just travel to places that you can physically not go to. And when you do that, that allows you to either create love or hate, also to that kind of extreme. Right? So you see how it creates hate right now in the present day and age. You see how that freedom of thought running around and creating, this kind of, world that is in your head, how it can create a lot of hate. Same way, art has created a lot of love, brought us together, how we see each other. And also when you go to create anything, like say a song like those, 5 young people actually did. So when you go to do that, basically subconsciously art creates that platform where you can easily forget that two people are different. You start seeing the similarities. So now if you take us, when we came out of school, of course these kind of things where people used to say that Sri Lanka was only a country for X community or Y community, or we categorize ourselves as different ethnicities, was there very strongly, and when we came out of school the war was at a peak. But if you take us, when we started creating all our albums, if you take Sri Lanka Mata to Chandani Paila, Hirikodu, all these big hits that some of them sang as well. Now those songs were created by a very very diverse set of people. Sri Shamalangan, and then you get Nelar and Kasim, then you get Umaria Singavansa, so you get Tamil, Muslim, then you get burghers who played on our songs, who got involved in the creations, and then you get the two of us being Sinhala Buddhist. You put it like that. But then in this creation process, we lost sight of all those differences. And then we essentially sing in Sinhala. We don't sing in Tamil, because we don't know Tamil. Unfortunately, we don't know Tamil. We didn't learn Tamil. If we had learned Tamil, I think it would have been much more advantageous for us as well, because then we know, more languages. But then we sing essentially in Sinhala. But whenever we go to the east, whenever we go to the north, we have a tremendous fan base, right? And sometimes they don't identify certain songs, but they know Bhati and Santosh. They feel that Bhati and Santosh are our singers, ape gayakyo, ape denni. Kine feeling ek apita avila thanas. Like we have played shows in Trinco, in Patiklo, various places where you get a relatively small amount of Sinhalese people. But when we go and we sing in Sinhala, we are not singing Tamil at all. But you see the love those people have, and they see us as two Sri Lankan singers as opposed to two Sinhalese singers. So art definitely can help a society lose those kind of boundaries that we ourselves have imagined and put out there. As I said, art creates the boundaries, art can take it off as well. So art definitely helps us to first thin out those boundaries, and then after some time it makes those boundaries non-existent. So that is the recreational part of art. Then when you come to art as a business, I will put that out as well. About 2 months ago, I was a part of I think this was a skill development forum. So there were so many learned people, and there was a slide on the screen which they brought up: 125 jobs which will get lost or which will be obsolete in the next 10 years. And the best part of it was, I looked at all those jobs. All those were technical jobs, right? There was only one job which was an artistic job, which they talked about graphic design. They say that now you get a lot of apps and everything and AI being developed. that people will start losing the graphic design part of it. But none of the other artistic jobs are on it, which made me really happy because one thing is I won't lose my job, and the other thing was that showed that the power of creativity, the power of jobs which involved creativity, thinking, that can never be taken out. There were 125, I'm telling you, 125 jobs, including people who cook, chefs, because it's going to be automated soon, right? So automated kitchens. But then just one artistic job there, everything else was just technical. So I can say that it's a safe space for a lot of kids or youth to go into, and also it's a space where you can spread a lot of love, a lot of good, sentiments, and you can bring communities together. And we have experienced it, and I shared that experience because of that. We, you can bring communities together, and it can bring a lot of bond between people. So sports, arts are two spaces that can do that for a community.
Exactly. Thank you, Bhati. Thanks. Thank you very much for that. So I think on behalf of the organizers, let me apologize because Mr. Julian Bowling was supposed to be part of this panel, but due to he had to attend for another meeting, so he had to leave a little bit early. So actually, I had one question. So since Bhati was touching about sports, so I thought of throwing that question to Kasturi because she wears multiple hats. Yes. So I would like to ask the same question. What sports can bring into the table?
From a country point of view, I think one, I'm a big advocate for unity. And I speak Tamil because I'm a Tamilian. I studied in Tamil, I speak Sinhalese and I read Sinhalese as well. So I have all three languages under my belt. And because of that, I think of myself as a Sri Lankan. And I'm telling this from a point of view as a Sri Lankan. Arts and sports is one thing which brings people together. We get color blind, we become race blind, we become gender blind in some ways. We become blind to a lot of things, and we are only there to enjoy or celebrate or work together to do something. And I think the secret of it is because you can't do it alone. I mean, Bhatia can't sing alone if Santosh is not going to complicate, and the backup singers are not there. They understand, both sports and arts, they understand the importance of hard work. They don't become stars overnight. They must be practicing a lot. The sweat they pour down, right? Same for sports. And they understand their success is not for you. If your neighbor is successful or your partner is successful, then the team is successful. If everybody, the orchestra is good, then the whole thing is successful that day. So if you have a dance troupe, you can have the best dancer. If the side dancers are flop, you will never say it was a good troupe. To see, what eventually both of these say is, you work hard, you need to work together, and it's your job to make the other one better. You don't find this in human beings in other places. You're trying to cut the other one and be better here. Versus it's up to us to say the other one also has to be good and of equal standard for us to win as a team or to be sounding better or as a troupe dancing better. So we need this. And I mean, God forbid, for the last 2-3 years, we've seen so much of division. If we can get as youth, bring these two arts things together, use it as a tool to make us all blind in every sense and focus on what's really right for the country, I think that's what we need.
Thank you. Kasura, I think Bhati also made a very valid point. I mean, there's so much that we can do together rather than working in our own silos. I think so. That's a good takeaway for even for the volunteers as well. I mean, yes, I think as the minister also said, yes, we have our own objectives, organizational objectives to be achieved. But just imagine how much that we can do collectively together and as one team. Because I'm talking through my personal experience, because I had the privilege of working with many Rotaract district presidents, many JC JCI senators and national presidents and AIESEC national coordinators. I mean, brilliant minds, brilliant set of individuals bring so much to the table. So I think rather than working in silos, I think if we can work together, I think we can, as a country, I think we can achieve a lot and we can do more. I think that's what the arts and sports actually.
If I could add a small thing
Yeah,
to
of
that.
course.
See, I have been, from my school days, I've been associating with a lot of, these associations interact, and then I was quite close to Rotaract, and then we have been also, associating with all these other organizations at some point. I'm really happy to see that you all have come together, because one thing that we saw was over the years when we were part of all your projects, it was as if all of you guys were competing to do the same projects. If say one party goes and does a project, the other party wants to do a much better project. So everybody focuses on one area, and you saw that everybody was doing one thing. But now, since you all are together, if you guys can plan out, the whole plot by sitting together, so that you all address all the issues, and you all don't address a few issues and compete on those. So it's a really good thing that we saw today. So and I really hope that this works out on a long term, and that you guys do good for the country, because individually all the organizations do great things, but then since 2005, 6 and then upwards, we saw a little bit of competition and focus towards one area. But now if you all can do a common plan and then spread out your wings into all those areas, that I think you all can do really well.
Thank you. Santosh, let me take this question again, coming from arts. So how youth could use arts to optimize the outcome of volunteering?
To optimize the outcome of volunteering. So then, we need to understand volunteering. Why do we volunteer, right? A person would see something and they will feel, I need to help. They will feel sad, or they will feel a particular desire, wanting to help, right? So then they would, devote their time, get involved with the cause, and they would proceed. But now, while this is happening, others also join. Why? Some people, they have the same reason, or some they join. Here, that person has joined, so we also join. Okay. Right? With social media, this becomes more and more. For some reason, anyway, the project happens, and then you see the end result. Now, you're asking about how do we optimize the outcome, right? Now, what is art? Art is about, at the end of the day, it's about an expression, right? Art is an expression of life. So life is about an entity having emotions. If that entity does not have emotions, feelings, that's not life. So as art, what we do is we express life, we express emotions. So now when you take a project filled with volunteering, with volunteerism, that we are, trying to do a project, and what is important is communication, right? So if there is an artistic expression in that communication, then there is life within that project for many reasons. On one side, for the people who get involved with the project, for the people who really got involved with the project with a reason, yes, you evoke the emotions even more and you really empower them, inspire them. Then for the people who just got involved because of whatever other ulterior reasons, they get inspired even more. So your communication now has stronger form of a real artistic expression. And then what is more important is towards the end, once we do the final result of the project, that also has to be expressed. Has to be proper communication, so that the people who got involved, who gave their time, who gave their effort and time are appreciated. Then the rest of the people who didn't get involved, they should feel These people have done something great. They have created a difference. It's because of them. Next time, I think I should volunteer myself too. So art definitely optimizes, the whole outcome. So art should be used correctly to bring out correct communication, and communication is a vital component in all the projects you all do. And so I believe definitely art optimizes.
Thank you. Fantastic. Kasturi, let me turn towards you again. So I'm sure you've been to many panels. I'm sure you've been asked the same question again and again. But for the interest of audience, because this set of group is a different set of audience, is it the first time that you address this kind of audience, volunteers?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, first time. Okay. So I think as a country, we take the pride of producing the world's first female prime minister, right? Still we take that pride. But if you take our own volunteer organizations, I don't think that we have produced adequate enough female leadership in our respective areas. So I represent the Leo Club and the Lions Club movements. Yes, we had a handful of female governors. I think Rotaract, I think must be Governor 𝐻𝐕, maybe the first. Yeah, am I correct? Yeah. So we see that lack of diversity and taking leadership role, especially from the female, which I have personally have a huge respect. We're looking at how hard my wife works and cooks by looking after 2 kids. So my question to you is, Kasturi, as a female youth, what actions can and should be taken to manage glass ceiling and the glass cliff in corporate and volunteering organization structure? As I said, I don't want to confine this to only volunteering organization. Probably you can expand it a bit and touch a little bit on the corporate as well, because the same set of leaders will become the corporate leaders after finishing their volunteering tenure.
Yeah, so I have not spoken on volunteerism in these, I've addressed Leo clubs and Rotaracts and stuff like that. So just to get the context, glass ceiling, people know it is about a barrier in progressing, and your cliff is where necessarily it's not a female, but they put a minority, anybody where you think the odds of succeeding is bad, and you put that person in there, and generally they put women there, and if the woman fails, they quickly replace it with a man, and if the woman succeeds, they take the credit that they took a bold
for empowering that person. Yes.
When you said that, it's definitely I was not on a glass cliff when they put me on this role. So to break this, what do you need to do? Now remember, all of you all are youth. You will eventually go into your own businesses, or you will start working with a corporate. You need to, there are biases from the corporate side, from people's side, and from us as women as well. Like he said, his wife works and make sure the home is kept, right? So that's where the inequality happens. So we have a policy at HEMAS, we are unequal. We have very women-friendly policies, and I purely say the day it's equal at home for the women, I'll make equal policies here, because we can't solve the problems that are cultural issues at homes, right? But the problem happens not only now, the thing is we've addressed it and said the women to want more. They do want more. But personality development has to happen, and I'm glad that you're doing so much at AIESEC. My personality came because of the sports field, and I had a purpose because I singularly want to succeed for my kids. I needed to bring that salary home to my kids. So when you have that purpose, like you said, you don't care a damn what you have to do your job, be excellent at it, and you go home. And you don't care about politics at that point. But everybody doesn't have that. So you need to be having that wherewithal to go through if you believe you can do it. But on the other side, who sits? Majority if there are men, no offense, but most of the men who sit there, their wives are who are at home, stay-at-home wives, right? And for them, they see a woman as this female role who is soft-spoken, who is there caring, nurturing, and they are not, it's very tough to switch that role, focus and look at this woman as a corporate who can be assertive, not aggressive but assertive, and take decisions. At home you kind of consultative versus here you take a decision. So it's really tough on the man as well, and I'm not finding fault. I'm sure it's tough because we as parents bring up our sons to say you're the breadwinner, and bring up our girls to say, look, you make sure you qualify and look after your husband and keep the food there on the table. So it's a mindset change, but I'm telling you, I see now the younger generation, and I'm so glad to see the young men also say, I want a wife who wants a career, wants something for themselves. So my message to the youth, whether it's young men or women, women want figure out what you want. You can't be, a career is not for everybody. You may be wanting something else. Maybe you want to pursue arts and just you don't be allowed to do that. And pursue it. And others' biases shouldn't trouble. And the young youth, the guys, I think you should give up your biases. Don't think the woman is only is a nurturing person. Don't think the woman has only job is to make sure that the home is looked after. If a woman is a bit assertive, don't label it as it's a bad thing. It can be an okay thing. And the biggest bias in a corporate or any place is the thing which we say affinity bias. That is when you go about after. So I struggled when I was handling maritime and logistics. I was the first female at that time. And I had to take a call because the deals happen at drinks and cocktails, and then they go entertainment and all that. My kids were young, so I had to take a call, how can I be the CEO and be who I am? And I would smilingly tell my Chinese partners, say, look, after drinks and dinner, do you mind? I'm going home because my kids are waiting. You're going to enjoy yourselves. And once or twice, once you laid it out, nobody found fault with me. So you have to make sure that, and when we go out there, we also try to be one of them. So that, and guys don't know how to deal with it. So it's a adjustment, give and take, find your space, and be true to yourself. So we need support from both sides. Any gender has to adjust and let the other person succeed. It's not an easy journey. The good thing about Sri Lanka is I don't think we have this glass cliff story. We don't put people to fail. I mean, for all my roles, I must tell you now, I can say, for my functional role, the first MD's role was in 2011. I had a mentor on from 2009 from India. I used to fly, not at all cheap. And the same mentor, when I went into pharma 1 year before he came in, asked me what I need, what are my things, because internally I also was scared, because it was, no woman had done it before, kind of, even the pharma trade. So you need help. Don't think, and when I took the board position, or when I became group CEO, the board needed help to adjust to me. You can see that I am quite outspoken. And they also needed a coach to help them to understand who this Kasturi is and how to handle her and get the best out of her without labeling her as a woman who is commanding the board. So it's a lot of adjustment and lot of, you need a coach, you need to understand you need help, and don't lose your true essence in the journey.
Thank you, Kasturi. That's fun. Sure, please.
Say, we have a group of companies, and one of those companies actually do a lot of work for Kasturi. So I experienced, she was our client. So I started to do a lot of work with her maybe about 3-4 years ago. We started this, and I must say that I work with a lot of men. Most of the other CEOs, we work with a lot of men, and she's the only female CEO that, who we work with at that point. And she's by far, I'm not actually exaggerating it, she's by far the easiest to work with, because all her meetings are quick and she comes up with the quick decisions. And also any kind of meeting we have, it won't last for not for more than half an hour, more than 15 minutes. So I must say that then any men that we work with up to now, she's been by far the most easiest and the most focused in order to work with.
Congratulations.
No, I'm not saying that compared to rest of the women. Compared to the rest of the men, she's far more
No, he was very clear.
focused to the point. She's far more focused to the point.
Great. So I think that's a great learning. I think the same message should be taken even for the volunteer organizations as well. So if you had noticed, I mean, we had 4 speakers, all representing 4 different clubs. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, perfect, presentation. But I wish, if we had, one female, lady come and presenting, would have been nice. But anyway, jokes apart, I think volunteer organization, I think we also should look at that, bringing that diversity, because personally I have seen so many fantastic, I mean, brilliant, female leaders. I would say maybe not as a, function leadership title, but, they had the leadership traits, or rather, leadership qualities, but never took up the, the greatest challenge of becoming the district president or the national president, whatever your respective organizations call it. Somehow, just simply drop the baton halfway through. So I think that's a great message from Kasturi, that we should, as men, as male leaders, we should, encourage that diversity in our own respective areas as well. Yeah, I think with that, I think we can take a couple of questions. Can we take about 3 questions for the interest of time? Yes, we have one question. Do you have a mic? Yeah, you can just.
So when you said the present day youth gets a lot of opinions, which I also do get from my home, from my friends, from the rest of the family, because I started my own business. From the point I left school, I went to do my degree, and then while doing the degree, they were forcing me to get a job. After the degree, they were forcing me to get a job, which I refused, and I'm happy about that. But then again, a lot of youth find it very difficult to figure it out, because like you said, they get a lot of opinions. What advice would you give as help for them in order to identify which opinions to take and which ones to drop? Because life is too short, you can't trial and test everything. So it's very short time. We need to figure out what is correct and move forward. So what advice would you give for us to make it?
It's a very, very tough, advice to give, because there is no proper formula for that. But there are 2 sides to the story, right? One is, I would actually answer half of it, and I'll get Santosh also to answer half of that question. So basically, there's 2 sides to it. Now, say for example, when you get a lot of opinions, the first thing what happens to a person is that those opinions strike your heart. You become very emotional about those. It's either good, bad, or it's usually wow or bad, right? So then you suddenly start getting emotional about it. Why do you become emotional about it? Right? Because, see, what happens is when you get involved in a project, you fall in love with the project as well, or what you want to do, you start, really, having that kind of bond with it. But it's very rare that a person can have like a on-off switch where you're objective when you're focusing on it, and when you want to really drive it, you're very objective. And then when you're basically enjoying it, you switch off and you become emotional about it. It's very difficult for people to learn the art of that. So we try to do that from day one. Just to give you a small thing, if I can give you a small example. So when we started out, we were very young. He was only 21, I was 22. So here we are, we try to quit everything, and people were saying, okay, some were saying good, some were saying don't. Then we started this whole Bhati and Santosh. And then we got good opinions, as in good advice from both his parents and my parents. But then it was too much. It was not our thing. At the end of the day, then it was, you know, parents, relatives, brothers, sisters driving this whole business for us at a certain point. So one day we called each other and we went and met at a small coffee shop. And we had a chat and we said, okay, let's just put a stop to this. Just two young people doing their part. It would have been done like that if we were, you know, at his age. But then one day we called our parents to our house, and then he also called his parents to my place, and we said, you know, look, you guys can advise us, but then this is our space. And we started focusing on it. And then when we got a lot of, you know, people saying that, you know, you all are destroying the culture. You all are destroying this. What are you all doing to, you know, our Sri Lankan way of art? It's very easy to get emotional. It's very easy to get upset, very easy to get angry. But then what we generally did was we sit down and we break it down, right? So you have to always, we used to always ask ourselves the question, okay, where are we destroying the culture? But then when you go to analyze it, some statements are completely off. There was one statement made by one gentleman saying, "Megolo Sinhala Bhashawa හරියට සින්දු වල පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ." ඕක තමයි යාගේ තියෙන articles වල. So what we thought, we started looking at it and we actually thought, yes, this is right. And what other way to do things, we went and invited him to come and write songs for us, and he is our biggest songwriter today. Unmadani, Chandani Payala, Kirikodu, Ilaren Kasim. Right? The way he wrote articles towards us, anybody would have thought we'll go and bash him up. Right? So you have to have that on-off switch where you can take things on the, you know, on the surface of it, keep it away, and you really don't have to get into any sort of, you know, mishaps with people as well, because if you have that on-off switch, it's very easy to stay focused. It's very easy to smile at certain things when there is no base to it. You don't get angry, and then you can have clarity and move on. So that's my take on it. Well,
Yeah, I would say most often, I mean, whether it's 20 years ago, 100 years ago, or you know, currently, or years to come, suppression, criticism, that's always there, right? Just that it's always in different forms. So 20 years ago, yes, we faced criticism. We faced severe criticism. I can remember one day I came home and then my mom showed, you open the papers, entire two full pages, right? Basically the biggest, most profound musicians and literary people in the country have broken the page into 6 parts, and they have just basically slandered us, saying that we are ruining the Sri Lankan culture and the entire thing. So mom was furious, saying, "What are you doing? Can you go back and study? Finish your degree. What is this? What are you doing?" She was actually very, very concerned because, I mean, it was too much for her, right? So we went through different things. I mean, today it will be the digital media, but during that time, when you see you're slandered in the national newspaper with a full spread, that's also quite a big force. Then all your relatives call, right? And what is this? What is he doing? What is this? You know, why can't they do something else? What is this? You know, that's not. So there is a lot of pressure comes. When at that time we went through a lot of pressure, and after getting into the industry, when we realized that it is difficult to sustain, that was even more pressure, right? So pressure is always there, right? Even if it's digital media, it is there. Only way that you can survive is, I think this entire discussion spoke about that. Why do we start doing what we want? That is the key point. if you don't start with the correct reason, if you don't go to do that project because of the correct reasons, then you will fall. You'll be crushed. Most important thing is to start doing what you want to do because for the correct reasons. We didn't do this for fame. We didn't do this for money. We didn't do this for any other reasons. We did this for a sheer reason, right? We felt a certain need in the music industry. We felt we wanted to really change the sound. We were searching for that. And eventually, obviously, we grew up in our entire, until 20 years from the 80s to the 90s, we didn't hear a Sri Lankan sound which had an international, feel to it, right? We toiled for that. Our entire generation felt that hunger for a Sri Lankan sound which had an international appeal, right? So there was a reason, and we wanted to do a difference. We want to create a change. So same way, a person who's doing whatever, say art, music, sports, a write-up, business, whatever, right? You will face criticism. But if you have a passionate reason, wanting to create a change, wanting to create a difference, and if your heart says, no, this is what you want to do and you're passionate about it, then you start doing it. People will say, you're wrong, you're this, you have all this criticism. So when you get that, then it's a matter of you going back, take 2 steps back and then think, okay, this person is saying so. What is wrong in this? What is right in this? Ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Then when you look at this opinion, most of the time what you hear is, you ask them, okay, so what is wrong in it? Then their answer is, well, there is nothing, there is nothing wrong in it, but it's not right. This is their answer. When they can't find a rational reason to put you down, right? They will always say, no, it's wrong, it's this, that. They will give all these, other very fancy things, literally to put you down, right? But then when you really ask the core, what is wrong? There is no answer. The answer is no, it's not right. නෑ ඒක හරි නෑනේ. නෑ වැරද්ද මොකක්ද ඒකේ? නෑ ඒක හරි නෑනේ. හරි නෑ හරි. මමත් පිළිගන්නවා හරි නෑ. වැරද්ද මොකක්ද? There is no answer. That means now you're treading into a cultural shift. You're changing into the area of, you're changing a process. You're changing the thought process of people with whatever you're doing. That is why they are reacting like that. If they say, no puta, don't do this, this is wrong, right? This is the context, this is wrong. Then yes, take 2 steps back and try to, adjust it, because there is something wrong in it. When they can't find something wrong, it means you're doing a change, there is a paradigm shift in your thing. Get more guts into you. You're going on the correct path. But always talk to yourself every day. Am I doing the correct thing? Am I doing the correct thing? If your heart says, no, this is not the correct thing, then shift paths and find your own place. But you have to be very strong, and move forward, and then finally, what? You want to create a difference. So the courage to be different. So that's the only way you could move forward and do a change.
Yeah, I think you got a very precise and descriptive answer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just a very, very brief response from my side. I would of course say, please volunteer, because that gives you the avenues, you get openings into different areas of work, and that will help you to decide whether this is my passion or this is not. I've seen youth who have come in to volunteer with us, who probably studied law, and then they've come and done a short stint with us and realized that, this is where their passion is, and that law is not what they want to do. So kind of that gives you that, opportunity to explore other areas and really find your passion here. So.
Thank you. we'll take one more question. Yeah. Can we have a mic, please?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So my question goes out to Tesra, the Youth Council Services Chairman. So I'm actually representing the LEOs of Sri Lanka. So my question is like, what kind of a platform or what kind of an opportunity can you create for all the youth movements that have gathered together here to like collaborate or like synergize and work together if that kind of a thing is possible? Thank you.
Well, sure. Actually, as per the terms of the Youth Services Council Act, actually, I as the chairman can first of all register all of you under Youth Services Council as volunteer organization. That's one thing. But when it comes to the synergy, actually, I already spoke with the minister that we can allow you space to work together and also allow you physical space actually inside Youth Services Council so that we can work together on common objectives, common topics. Also, we can together start with organizing an international event where that we can also invite international participants, also the sister organizations of you all in other countries, etc. So certainly as one of the apex bodies to look after the youth spectrum in the country, we believe in working with the private sector and also work together with the stakeholders in the industry. So that's one reason why when it was first discussed and entertained the idea of having this kind of forum, we encouraged it, and certainly we would want to have these kind of engagements. And I mean, irrelevant the taglines, the names and the organization names, at the end of the day, we are referring to one family, the girls and boys, the youth from the families of Sri Lankans. So it's relevant to us from the government's perspective, the organizational names, etc. So we see at the end of the day, if we have more wings, more arms, we will reach out to the finer nuances, finer corners of the country, and you might have excelled in certain executing your tasks in certain areas, certain geographies, certain subject matters over the years than some others, including ourselves. So if we can put these combined effects, synergize this, we understand that's the best way that we can get the best out of our contribution and the investment, because we actually believe competing in the same industry, like it was mentioned in various places, that it's a waste of investment at the end, because at the end of the day, this money that we put and the effort we put belongs to somewhere. It has to be generated, and we want to save that capacity and put that in the right places. So this is the right beginning, and very soon we can allow you to work under one roof. We can call it one-stop shop, something like that. And we will also invite other multilateral organizations as well, and we will provide them space. Also, we have already spoken to some of the embassies where they also have youth organizations and interest groups, etc. So that's somewhere we can start working, and once we start going that journey together, we can together explore where else we can chip in and find our way together. Sure, please.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Just to add to what Teshara said, so actually we are going into supporting, working in collaboration with AIESEC to create youth volunteer centers across the country, and we've just kind of received the funding for it, and moving forward that's some of the things we'll be doing. So we'll be looking at hopefully schools, universities, we are trying to look at all of that. I think what would be very a win-win would be in the end if we can somehow ensure that volunteerism is somehow embedded either in the school curricula and in the university, because this is far, you know, something that has not been there, and so important because it really helps for personal development, to develop people. You really see that those who volunteer, there is such a difference. So I think it will be a real win for the country if we can achieve that, but one step at a time, and hopefully we can do something. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Just to very briefly summarize, you know, what we discussed. I know I wish we had this discussion about 15 years back. I mean, so much of unity, so much of collaboration among different functions, different entities, but so I think in this trying times, we got to be, it's absolutely critical even for a organization, even for a volunteer organization, to have that crystal clear clarity on the purpose, on exactly what we want to achieve, and be in love with what we do. That's core of what we do, irrespective of volunteer work or the paid work. So that is what is critical. And also, especially during these trying times, being agile. That's what Kasturi was basically speaking about. And the infrastructure what we have, be it from international organization, be it from the local the regulatory bodies, or rather from the policymakers itself. So we have so much of resources, and also we have the youth, the 4.4 million youth, which can really make a significant difference in this country. I know I sit on the political office, but I always make my point, always simply, we can't blame the politician and say, hey, look, politician did not do these things for me or for the country. It's us as citizens, as young people, it's our responsibility to make things happen, rather than waiting until someone else to do the job for you. So let's get the maximum resources what we have, be it international, be it local, and let's bridge that, let's build those bridges, and take that cohesive approach, and let's collectively win as individuals and as countries for a better future. And Sri Lanka, we can and we will. So with that, thank you very much to all the panelists as well as the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your valuable insights given to our youngsters, and we would like to thank Ms. Namal Rajapaksha, the Country Coordinator of United Nations Volunteers, Ms. Kasturi Chelraja, Group CEO of Hemas Holdings, and the distinguished musicians and entrepreneurs, Mr. Santosh Veeraman and Mr. Bhathiya Jayakodi, Chairman of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Teshara Jayasinghe, and the moderator, Mr. Asitha Pinnadua, Assistant Vice President, Private Banking of Nations Trust Bank.
அந்த குழு கலந்துரையாடலில் கலந்து கொண்ட அனைத்து பிரமுகர்களுக்கும் எங்களுடைய மனமார்ந்த நன்றிகளை நாங்கள் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றோம்.
As tokens of appreciations, we would like to give away these tokens of appreciations to our distinguished guests. Ms. Kasturi Chelaraja, Group CEO of Hemas Holdings, thank you very much for your contribution to this event, and we would like to invite Multiple District President Leo Champaka Dammage to hand over her token of appreciation. Mr. Santosh Veeraman. His token of appreciation will be given by Symposium Chairperson Leo Tikuli Pitigala. Thank you very much for your contribution. And Ms. Shamali Jaisinghe, the Country Coordinator of United Nations Volunteers. Thank you very much for your valuable contribution. And finally, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, Assistant Vice President, Private Banking at Nations Trust Bank.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Fusion V 2021 has been a tremendous success, and yes, our distinguished moderator, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, has made this alive in making this conversation such a wonderful gathering as well. And also the role of youth, and also the question why the risk, opinion, vision, focus, purpose, and also the changing the present landscape have been the tremendous marks of the Fusion V as well.
Thank you very much for your contribution for the panel of the discussion. And we would also like to invite Chairman of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Teshara Jaisinghe, to join with us.
And thank you very much for Teshara Jaisinghe for being a tremendous success in making this Fusion V a success as well. So another big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Lions are the guiding pillars of LEOs. We would like to invite the multiple council chairman, Lion Deva Peter MJF, to address the gathering and leave his closing remarks of the program.
The organizing committee of this Fusion V, and the Leo President, Champaka. I think you have created history today by bringing all the volunteer organization together today in this stage. And for the Minister of Youth and Sports, Namal Rajapaksha, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha was very kind enough to entertain us in this forum and giving us the opportunity to have this event in his ministry, auditorium. You know, the JCs, AIESEC and Rotaract and 𝐸𝐈 have always worked apart, not together. Most of the time they always work not together but in competition. But now, from now on, I am sure all four organizations will work together and look into one goal to achieve the success of We Serve. Because our motto is We Serve. So we should look into that point, and we all should jointly work together and help the people who are in need. Because we ourselves, we go out, because in Sri Lanka, the entire Sri Lanka is covered with our four Rotaract, AIESEC, JCs and 𝐸𝐈s. So we are there in all the part of Sri Lanka, and we can do a lot. Jointly we can do plenty. So with our Honorable Minister's request, I was there with him, and he wanted all four together jointly organize a forum and work together, and he is going to help us in doing the service and also the sport together in achieving our goal. So with that, I must thank the moderator and the panelists who did a wonderful work. We had a very good discussion on how to go ahead. And also with their experience, we know now we can work together, and in the future also we need your help and services for us to move forward. While I thank all the people who were there, the Alliance governors, past district governors, and all the other members, 𝐸𝐈s, I must thank for coming here and helping us to organize this forum a success. And while thanking you, I say very good congratulations to the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Multiple Council Chairman Lion Deva Peter MJF, for your address.
Yes, Dinusha. With that, I think the Fusion V is about to conclude, but before that, the official proceedings to be managed. And yes, indeed, if you look around on this house, it is named as Duncan White Auditorium. And if you have identified the pillars and the faces of the pillars, you will recognize that they have been the pioneers in taking the risk, in making our country's flag high internationally. So ladies and gentlemen, and we had an elite panel who have marked their recognition in corporate world, in youth development, and in performance arts. So ladies and gentlemen, now it is the time for us to drive this initiative into the next level. So 4 young leaders in leadership establishments in voluntary service have made into a one goal as Fusion V 2021. Dinusha?
Yes, definitely. It has been a very successful event, and before going to the final element of today's program, we would like to present a token of appreciation to the very special Multiple Council Chairman Lion Deva Peter MJF. Multiple District President Leo Champaka Damage will present the token of appreciation to the Multiple Council Chairman. Yes, so as you mentioned, after a much needed program to unite these main volunteering organizations of Sri Lanka, I think the organizers must be very proud. So to propose the vote of thanks, we invite the chairperson of the symposium, the dynamic leader. She has worked very hard to make this program a success, and none other than Leo Tikuli Pitigala. She is the chairperson of the Symposium Fusion V 2021. So, Leo Tikuli Pitigala, stage is yours to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Leos of Sri Lanka, let me deliver our heartfelt gratitude to all the key leaders who led this event into a success. Let me start off with the Chief Guest of the occasion, Cabinet Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, for being the inspiration behind the Fusion V. Chairman, Director General of National Youth Services Council, Mr. Teshara Jayasinghe, Multiple Council Chairman, Lion Deva Peter PMJF, Country Coordinator, the panel members, Country Coordinator of United Nations Volunteers, Sri Lanka, Ms. Shamali Jayasinghe, the musical artists who are, I believe, almost most of our favorites, so Mr. Bhathiya Jayakodi and Mr. Santosh Veeraman, Group CEO of Hemas Holdings, Ms. Kasturi Chelaraja Wilson, National Sports Council member, Mr. Julian Bolin. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for accepting our invitation and for being here today. Next, our own past district president, Asitha Pinnaduwa, Assistant Vice President, Private Banking at Nations Trust Bank, for being the moderator and for handling the panel discussion just the way we wanted. District governance, past line leaders, district chairman for Leos, thank you very much for your presence and guidance. Leo multiple district leaders under the guidance of multiple district chairman for Leos, Lion Vidyakirti Dissanayake MJF, Private Secretary to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Mr. Upul Dissanayake, who laid the foundation for this event, Media Secretary to Honorable Namal Rajapaksha, Mr. Mark Morris, who was always there from the beginning up until the end, guiding us and coordinating with the Leos of Sri Lanka together with the ministry. Our very own past district governor, Lion Kamal Seravaratna PMJF, who was the driving force and without whom we would not have been able to get this event to this success. And special thanks goes to the past multiple district president, Leo Lion Kesari Seneviratna, and our very own past district president, Lion Isuru Senadira, and also our fellow volunteers. This appreciation goes out to you for being present here today, accepting our invitation, and for all the, let's hope for a better future with the foundation laid today. So, District Rotaract Representative, Rotaract Kavindra Kasunsigera, Country President, AIESEC, Mr. Sisitha Gayara, National Vice President, JCI, Mr. Yasvin Rodrigo. Then I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the papare.com and Pulse for joining with us to make this event a success, management and staff of the Ministry of Youth and Sports for providing us with all the needed support. And last but not the least, for the entire team of Leos who pulled up this task in a matter of 2 weeks of time, a big thank you goes out to each and every one of you for being a part of Fusion V. So with this step kept forward with Fusion V to synergize all the youth volunteers in Sri Lanka, we look forward to another chapter in the future. Until then, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo Tikuli Pitigala.
Yes, Dinusha. Fusion V, bringing in AIESEC, Junior Chambers International, Leos and Rotaract into one forum. Fusion V, Symphony of Synergizing Youth Volunteers, proudly organized by the Leo Multiple District 306 together with the Ministry of Youth Sports. Let us all give a big round of applause for none other than the organizers of this wonderful evening in making this such a wonderful and a colorful event to grace all of us, and also the elite panel, which has been made this event wonderful as well as a day to remember at the Ministry of Sports Auditorium.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තාරුණ්‍ය උදෙසා ඔබගේ සහභාගී වීම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි ඉතාමත් මාගේ කොට සලකනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි අනාගතයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තාරුණ්‍යයේ වර්ධනය සඳහා ඔවුන්ගේ සුබදායක කටයුතු සඳහා ඔබගේ සහභාගීත්වය අපි සැවම අපේක්ෂා කරනවා.
ஃபியூஷன் 2021 என்ற இந்த நிகழ்வை மிகவும் வெற்றிகரமாக நடத்துவதற்கு எங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் உறுதுணையாக இருந்த ஒழுங்கமைப்பாளர்களுக்கும் இந்த நிகழ்வில் கலந்து கொண்டுள்ள விருந்தினர்களுக்கும் உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் எங்களுடைய மனமார்ந்த நன்றிகளை நாங்கள் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்வதுடன் அனைவரும் இந்த காலத்தில் பாதுகாப்பாக இருக்குமாறும் கேட்டுக்கொள்கின்றோம்.
Thank you very much. So in marking this wonderful great occasion into an end, we'd like to thank you all for being such a wonderful audience who've been watching us on live as well. So thank you very much. And in keeping your fingers across in meeting in another stage of a Fusion V, we would like to wish you all a very good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.